We are back with episode 10 of season 4 of We Do a Little Pod. And before we jump in, I want to highlight some big news we announced earlier this season. Season 4 is officially powered by Arbitrum, and our content is now redistributed across Rug Radio and Decrypt's platforms. Andy and I have been massive fans of Arbitrum since they launched, and both of us invested in Off-Chain Labs' Series B back in 2021. This is a full circle moment for us, and we couldn't be happier to partner with Arbitrum for this upcoming season. If you've never felt the frictionless transactions at lightning speeds on the world's most decentralized L2, what are you waiting for? Head on over to portal.arbitrum.io to check out their growing ecosystem where you can explore 600 plus apps and even participate in missions to earn points. In this week's episode, we sit down with our dear friend and co-founder of Rainbow Wallet, Mike Demarais. We dive into Mike's background as a software engineer, how he fell into the crypto rabbit hole, co-founding Rainbow, important lessons learned from raising capital, and so much more. As always, this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Andy, Dees, and guests may be invested in companies or tokens talked about in this podcast.
This is Andy.
Yeah, I'm Dees.
All right, well, we're back once again with another episode of We Do a Little Pod. We're here January 15th in an undisclosed location, and we're here with Mike Demarais from Rainbow. Mike,
up,
how
guys?
are you doing?
Dees, Andy, what's up?
It's been a long
Thanks for
time
having
coming.
me.
You showed up with the Fractional hat.
Yeah, I mean, this is
love.
just still to this day one of my favorite pieces of history. I
It's
like
a good
collecting. Dude, it's such a good hat that I broke one of the hats by breaking this like metal clip off
Yes.
the back somehow, and I had a backup, and
That's
I'm just
smart.
like right back into.
I could tell
it,
you
man.
have the V2 version of the hat.
Do I really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it says fractional on the back.
The ones that say Fractional on the back are
Versus
the V2.
fractional.art.
No,
There's nothing on the back.
the first ones were
I think I
just-
only had the V2s.
Yeah,
ever
because
then.
like the first one was like a test batch.
Yeah.
So I got like 25 of them.
Yeah.
And went through those real quick, and then I got 100 of those ones.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
it's
Only
an
1 out of
honor to
100,
see you
dude.
repping that over
Hell
the
yeah.
Rainbow swag.
We don't have any rainbow. We have stickers, which I
Yeah.
might have some on me to give you guys.
Are you going to get into the Rainbow swag game or not?
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly a really painful combo because like everyone on the team like desperately wants merch.
Yes.
We have not made merch, and the longer that we've sort of not made merch, the more that we want the merch to be like a banger.
Fire.
Yeah.
And that just kind of like makes it even harder to sort of prioritize.
We got to get you hooked up with this.
You have a plug for like that just handles it, or
No, I
what?
literally just used custom ink for that.
Yeah,
hat.
yeah.
But
It's
that
just
hat,
a nice hat. Like that
Yeah.
was the thing. So like I did that hat because Jacob from Zora gave me some Zora hats. And I was like, oh, these are nice. Where'd you get them from? He's like, oh, I just did it on custom ink. And I was like, oh, I just assumed everything from there was like total dog
Yeah.
shit. And so then I went through and looked and found the one that I liked the most. And
Hell yeah.
Well, speaking of Rainbow, before you started Rainbow,
Yeah.
how did you fall into the crypto rabbit hole? And then what inspired you to develop a wallet?
Yeah. I guess let me think. Like the crypto rabbit hole. Man, I'm trying to think what year it was, but I mean, I first discovered Bitcoin via Hacker News back in
Nice.
the day, and I was like, this is either a joke or like, you know what I mean? I was like, this is
Yeah.
like
Too good to be
not
true.
real. Yeah. I was like, okay, like start the clock. Like, when is this going to hilariously blow up or whatever? And back then, yeah, the only way to buy it was like via Dwala and then Mt. Gox. Like you had to do that. But honestly, like, yeah, I didn't really pay that much attention to it for a while. I was always like interested by it. I started to, spend a lot of Bitcoin buying like weed on the internet.
Yeah.
That was a really great time. Like, and a cool little like, yeah, that was like an interesting era. But I kind of stopped doing that at some point because I don't know, it felt like sus. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like there was an
like-
era where it felt like really
it's like, oh,
innocent.
wow, I'm cool online.
Yeah,
hacker
and it felt
guy.
like very low risk. And then it was like, what did they do? They got Hansa and Alphabet or whatever. Like, and then I was like, oh shit! Like the boomers are like hip, and like this doesn't feel as
It feels like the feds could be coming.
yeah. It just felt like this felt like a nice to have, you know what I mean? And like I didn't need to be buying it online.
That's what I was gonna ask, because like
yeah.
for me, when I heard about it, I was buying weed from my dealer.
Yeah.
And my dealer lived 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
Did you have a similar, like, you didn't really need to buy?
I think that, honestly, I'm trying to even remember like where I was at any, like, I don't know. I was using Alphabet for a while. I think I would just use it to buy like things that are harder to find. Like I used to love buying like shake, like large quantities of shake so that I could cook with it. Yeah.
Were you big on edibles then?
Yeah. Like I would just cook like large amounts of like coconut oil, right? And then just like sit on it.
Yeah.
And it was like way easier to source like
Shake.
a quarter pound of shake or something
Yes.
from the darknet than it was IRL, because I don't know anybody that has shake anymore. Or like I bet you do, but like it's not
There's
sort of like on the
some
menu.
dispensaries up in Michigan I go
Yeah.
to, and they got those like $20 shake ounces. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm so thankful I'm at the stage of my life
Yeah.
where like that's not even a real option. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I can just buy the, I don't know, $100 ounce that they
Yeah,
have and
yeah.
not have to deal with the shake. But you're going through shake, getting big chunks of shake from the web. What was the cross from that to like using Ethereum
Yeah.
and then being like, oh shit, like the
For
wallet,
sure.
the wallets are not great.
Yeah. Well, so I guess, let me think. It was the 2017, 2018 bubble.
beautiful.
Right? And I was working full time as a software engineer at a B2B like SaaS company, which is sort of like kind of what I was doing for work. Like I'd spent a lot of years just working at random like B2B SaaS companies. But yeah, when the 2017 bubble like kicked off, it was just consuming so much of my attention. And I was spending more and more time thinking about that than like my job. But then really what clicked for me specifically with Ethereum, because for a very long time, I held the really like, I guess perhaps naive view that like, I didn't really get Ethereum. Like I didn't really understand it. And it also felt like it was trying to do way too much. And I felt like really skeptical about its ability to do any of those things, right? I was like, okay, you can do anything on it, but like that sounds like it's not going to work. Yeah, I was like, okay, that's like too much going on. But the thing that really clicked for me was 0x, because it made me understand it sort of was the first thing that made me think about or conceptualize Ethereum as this like system of like Lego blocks almost, right? How you can like build things on top of it in this like, modular like Lego blocks type way. So yeah, it was definitely like 0x was the thing that made me like the aha moment and understand that. And then really quickly after that, I think I became, really fascinated, obsessed with like MakerDAO, as well as things like Radar Relay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like really into that stuff. Definitely MakerDAO was the big one. And then, yeah, I guess, I was working with my co-founders like Christian and Jin. And we, so it's like Christian is a designer. He's like the best designer I've ever worked with. And like, he and I both have, I think, a predisposition towards like pretty consumer things. Like we just like, we are almost like students of consumer applications. Like he and I both kind of like, over the years just have become like, I don't know, like monks, like just studying consumer apps. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you remember that app from like 10 years ago that like had this one little sort of component in it? And he's like, yeah. So
That
it's
was like sick and everyone liked it.
Yeah. So it was like, we both had this kind of like encyclopedic, like knowledge of consumer apps. And that was like really what we were passionate about. And with regards to like Ethereum, it just became super clear to us that the existing sort of wallet products were not it, from our, and like in our worldview, right? Like, Ethereum wallets are going to end up on everyone's home screen. And MetaMask is just not that, right? Like it's sort of, if you look at what an average person's home screen looks like and sort of like the apps that, when you click one, what the app actually looks like and how it works, right? MetaMask does not fit that pattern of sort of like an app that is capable of being on people's home screens. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we started. It was just like, we had the realization that in order for any of this to be possible, more people to interact with it, and sort of a prerequisite to interacting with any of these dApps is having a wallet, right? So to us, it just felt super like obvious, or like it just felt like a foundational part of the stack that was getting no love. And we felt just like, uniquely capable of actually building out a better wallet.
And then you started with mobile in mind.
Yes.
Which I think MetaMask started with desktop in mind.
Yes.
And then their mobile app just feels like a really shitty port of their desktop app to your phone.
Yeah. I mean, it's like to this day, I still do the majority of things from my phone, like in Web3 or crypto, whatever you want to call it. Like vast majority of shit, I do it from my phone. That's not normal. I think that most people who are like crypto natives still prefer to use desktop. But I mean, in our minds, I mean, like mobile as a platform felt super important. It felt like where sort of the next adoption wave was going to be happening. And we still feel that way. But also it felt like picking mobile, it was also this vibe that like building a world-class consumer mobile app is actually really one of the hardest kinds of things to do, because it has, what you're talking about is like a viewport that's this small, and you really have to crush the design in order to make that thing intuitive and viable, right? So it's like, from our perspective as well, it was also like, let's start with the hard thing, and if we can nail that, then it sort of validates the whole thesis, so that was part of it as well, just kind of trying to sort of like validate the thesis on the hard thing, which was mobile.
Yeah, I mean, mobile makes sense too, because the younger generation, they use way more phones. Like if you look at how people access the internet, it's like the mobile is the most used category. But crypto, we're all like,
it's so funny.
I don't want to move my funds on my phone. And
I think there's something that like feels more risky about it being on your phone.
But it's kind of funny because I feel like, I use a Windows computer. Like that thing is way more at risk of me clicking on shit and getting a malware.
Without a doubt.
Than the iPhone. Like the iPhone feels like this like brick fortress of like,
I think that it feels more dangerous for like wrench attack type vibes, right? Like, I have like the keys in my pocket or whatever. But from an actual like, cybersecurity perspective or whatever you want to call it, your mobile operating systems are significantly more hardened and sort of don't allow
more like lockdown kind of, I feel like.
Yeah, right? I mean, you can't just be running background processes on your iOS device, right? And that does make it a lot more secure for sure.
Yeah, because I'm the type of person, like I have a computer that is that MacBook, wherever it is. I don't know where it's at. It's what I open up emails on. Like if someone sends me something and I got to open it up, it's like, all right, let's pull up the MacBook. Like I'm deathly afraid on the Windows computer to do it. But on my phone, I'm just like, oh, fuck it. Like, open it. And
well, I mean, that's just one of the best things about sort of iOS, right? And it's like the thing, it's sort of a double-edged sword, because in some ways it's like Rainbow and other crypto products are hindered by these mobile operating systems and their rules and sort of anything like that. But on the flip side, right, it's like the fact that I can safely tell my mom that she can go buy an iPhone and download whatever the fuck she wants from the App Store without, I'm like feeling really comfortable knowing that she's not going to like get her bank account drained or whatever.
Which you can't do on Android. Some of the shit you get from the Android marketplace.
I know.
Because I had a Samsung Galaxy and I treated that thing like an iPhone.
Yeah.
And then I realized like, oh, like anybody can just put shit in this store. Like this is not vetted.
Yeah. It's like I've put apps on here and I'm not any good at this.
Yeah, it is weird. I mean, Android is sort of like, I don't know. I sort of think about it like
Windows. That's the dumbest question. Do you have an Android app?
Yeah, we have an Android app.
For the longest time, I was the guy who would bug him when I had an Android. I'd be like,
for sure.
Yeah, I was like, yo,
he was like the one power user who's using an Android.
I mean, there were a lot of people. I mean, we shipped, man, I'm gonna time.
This was probably like back in like what, 2020, late 2020, early 2021.
I think that we, because we had the Android app like in quote unquote beta for like a year or something. So it's like, I think that it technically only became like sort of a state, we dropped the beta label, I think sometime early last year.
Okay. That makes sense.
But I think it was like, it certainly existed throughout all of 2022. Okay. Like the Android app was like in production.
If you can say it, what is the rough split between like...
That's a good question. People? And honestly, I would have to check.
I was like, in my head, it's like 95/5.
More Android?
Yeah, no, 95/5 like iPhone to Android. I don't know
it's way closer than that.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, the big thing, right, is that Android is by far the most dominant platform everywhere outside of America.
It's most
right?
accessible because you can get the phones for $100.
I mean, and that sort of, yeah, that's how it works in some places, but even in Western Europe, where like I don't, it's not like a like they have money, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's not a cost thing.
It's not it's I don't know why, but for whatever reason, like people in Western Europe, everyone has Android. Like whenever we work with like European engineers, they're always like, they're always Android users.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm so like, Americanized by my view of what I would
No,
think
I cannot relate to sort of having the choice and preferring
we
Android.
were talking about you like the good consumer app experience, and I feel like it's much more homogenous in the Apple land, whereas in the Android land, it's like some apps are great and some just like feel like they're breaking the phone.
Yeah.
I feel like it like I remember back when I was young, I was one of the kids who would like, if you wanted your iPhone or iPod Touch jailbroken, give it to me, I'll jailbreak it for you. And so then like I think I really liked Android for a while because like I loved the idea of being able to do whatever the fuck I wanted. I was changing the operating system and like, running my own like custom like boot stuff and all this. And then you get to a certain point where you're like, honestly, this is just like really fucking annoying. Like, just give me the thing that works really well. And I don't know.
I loved Android when I was like 18 and had infinite time to customize that shit. And it's like, oh yeah, like my custom ROM broke, so I can't use my phone for the next 8 hours until I fix this or whatever, right? And I became like, it got to the point where I was like, I don't care about this, and this is like just an inconvenience.
Yeah, it's like I don't need to have the phone that works worse, so I can have a really cool like weather app on my phone.
That you customize yourself.
Yeah.
Like it's going back to the dev stuff. I want to know, like, were you in high school messing around with code? Were you somebody who from a young age was, you knew that you're gonna be a software dev? Like, how did you go down that path?
Yeah. I mean, I was coding from, I don't know, man, like 11, 12, 13, something like this, right?
Computers in the house. Your parents that are coders at all?
No, I had to like fight for the computer, and it became like, and I think honestly, I think it helped me get better because they would never buy me a computer. So I always had to, I would basically like solicit like, hey, like friends of the family, like if you have like a shit computer that you don't want anymore, like I'll take it. And then I would just sort of like, part them out and sort of like try to build the least shitty little computer out of the parts. And I would always run Linux on them because it was like the only way to sort of have a decent enough computer like on those poor specs, right? Like just Windows was slow or whatever. So yeah, I was always into computers. I grew up in suburban Massachusetts, and the school system there, like we did, it's a great school system, awful sort of computer thing. So it was very like, what's the word? I very much was like, it was very self-directed. Like I wasn't getting very much like support or mentorship or anything. It was just kind of figuring it out. So I was doing shit in high school, but it was like, I was teaching the teacher about like CSS and things like this. You know what I mean?
Teacher has like an older curriculum, not the new
The teacher
stuff.
is this like 75-year-old guy who like was writing, teaching everyone HTML, but like, tables and sort of inline styles and things like this. But yeah.
And then you went to school, I'm assuming, for computer science.
No, I mean, I was a bad student in high school, or like I would get, A's. I would ace the classes that I cared about, and then would just like fail classes that I didn't care about. And then for college, I didn't apply to college when I was in high school. I had this whole like I was gonna go travel, man, like South America, dude, like all this shit, and then I gave up on trying to save money. So then I
couldn't travel.
Yeah, so then I applied to college, and I went for like 3 months at a state school in Massachusetts called Salem State.
Okay.
So yeah, I went there for like 3 months and then bailed.
Nice.
Yeah, and no, I was studying like political. I mean, again, it's like 3 months, right? So
Yeah,
it's like,
so
cool,
like
but
you took,
I was not going to do computers. I was going to do like political science or journalism, something like that.
and then what? After all that was like your first job with the computer science side of things.
Yeah. Well, so after I dropped out of school, I ran a computer repair shop. I started a computer repair shop / web design firm in my hometown.
Nice.
And I crushed it at that.
Well,
Helping
you
out
had all the background of like you're already building Franken computers.
yeah, exactly, dude. Oh yeah, like I was the man at fixing your shitty old Windows computer for sure. And yeah, I ran that. That was really fun. Built websites, fixed computers and stuff. And then, let me think. And then I got an internship in Boston at a startup. Kind of cold called my way around and just got an internship. And then I moved to Kansas City to start a startup when I was like 18 or 19, because we had gotten essentially like grant funding out there. So I went out there with 3 of my friends to do a software startup. We did that for like 2 years. Didn't really get anywhere. But it was an amazing learning experience.
Better than college.
Way better than college.
Like,
I think so. I think it was way
2
better
years
than
at a
college.
startup when you're 19 sounds way better than like political science.
I would say that that's true. I think that the difference though was that this was our startup.
Yes.
Right. So it was kind of like, if it was someone else's startup, I think it would have been even more impactful of a learning experience. Right.
Since it was yours, it was like you're building the boat as you try to.
Yeah, and like I don't know. I think that like I don't know. Yeah, I think that like if we were working with someone like really experienced, right? Like that would have been an even better
cheat
learning
code.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, because you can learn from them, watch
Yeah.
what they're doing.
Yeah.
and-
You probably made some like mistakes that have been
Making so
made
many-
100 times before.
Yeah, we're making silly mistakes, but yeah, it was like the ultimate learning experience. And like we were talking about it before, kind of like my appreciation for like America's tertiary cities. And in Kansas City, it was a cool opportunity because basically it was like this one guy's job there to introduce me to everyone in the city. He worked for this like sort of nonprofit that was focused on entrepreneurship.
Okay.
So it was like his job to like, oh, we got a live one here. We got like an entrepreneur. Let's like juice them, right?
That's
Let's
that's like major news in Kansas City.
Yeah.
They're like,
for-
holy shit.
I
the
was
biggest
on the
thing that
newspaper. I was in like the cover of the
Somebody
newspaper.
wants to be something here. Like,
Yes.
holy shit.
But yeah, no, it was such a
That's
cool
hilarious.
experience. I met like everybody in the city. Yeah, and that was just a great experience for like how to kind of hustle, how to like, represent yourself in like the business world.
Mm-hmm.
And I raised like, what was it? I think $125,000 for that company. It was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
that's
like real
huge.
money.
like, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so after all of that was when I got my first big boy job in tech in Boston at a just like a SaaS company.
Nice.
It was like they're called Dispatch. I was like a front end engineer there. So yeah, so after since then, I basically was just working at SaaS companies up until Rainbow.
And then when did you found Rainbow?
Yeah, 2019.
Oh, nice.
March of 2019, something like that.
And then
February.
that's been that's been like 4 years now.
Yeah. I mean, there's not many companies out there these days, right? Where like that
No.
they're still from that era. Like
No.
In crypto, it's either they sold or like the sort of founding team is sort of like less involved than it used to be or whatever. Yeah,
Because
there's,
that was
like,
kind
not
of the
many.
bear market coming out of it right before COVID started.
Yep.
A lot of us, that was where I was probably the most checked out of the space between 2017 and now was 2019
Yeah.
before COVID started in 2020.
Yeah, I was like pretty disenfranchised with crypto at that point in a lot of ways. I was just like playing video games and
But you
working
saw
at
this like
MakerDAO.
potential and you're like,
Yeah. Well,
Coming
yeah. I mean, I really couldn't imagine working on anything else, right?
like after working at the other SaaS places, you're just like still learning about ETH, paying attention to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, like this has done a lot since I've done a lot and maybe it makes sense to
Yeah,
come
I mean,
here.
it just felt like, I don't know. It just felt like, and like I just couldn't imagine working
Did
on
you
anything
move
else.
from Boston to New York right before the pandemic then in 2019?
No, I was
or-
here already.
Oh, okay, for the other
working at a different like SaaS company.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you've been here for quite a minute. Have you always been on this side of the bridge?
No.
No.
I was no. I lived in like the Upper West Side and in Curry Hill over there in that little like Indian neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good
Love
time over there.
I love that spot.
Great food.
Great food. Yep.
Yeah.
Do you think this is where you would rather be now, though? Like, you're still here, I'm assuming, so it is. But.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. I think that like New York has a lot going for it. I like Brooklyn, but I don't know. I also get like, I frequently get tempted by just living somewhere else. Frankly,
Where would you go? Like, what kind of place?
I don't even know, dude. I mean, like, my fantasies take me to different places every time. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I still fantasize a lot about Wyoming.
Yeah, I remember fucking forever ago you were talking about Wyoming.
I know.
You were
It's
like-
because Rainbow was about to get acquired, and I was about to become like a remote employee again, and I was like, I can be anywhere, dude.
Yeah.
Like, let's go to Wyoming.
Where out in Wyoming? Just like,
Where in
Cheyenne?
Wyoming? Good question. I don't know. Probably Cody.
okay.
I've thought a lot about it. Like Jackson Hole seems like too.
Touristy? Or?
Well, yeah. It feels like impenetrable. Like for as far as like it's like the most expensive place in America. And even if I don't know, it's like you'd have to get 45 minutes an hour out of there to be able to like do like, buy land that isn't tiny or something. Whereas Cody feels like, again, coming back to it, it's like, I'm really a big fan of like, blank canvases. And it feels like Cody is actually kind of a blank canvas. Like you could kind of go there.
Would
and
you like have a full-on ranch thing? Like, would you get a ton of land?
Oh, if in my
animals?
fantasies, yes.
Yeah.
I would
Oh,
have
yeah?
a full compound. Yeah, I would have like,
like
Cybertruck
full
fleet.
homesteading, like you could live off the land type energy.
I don't know, because like I don't like doing that stuff.
Yeah.
like I would.
I'm not sure I could see you as like a farmer
I would love to have some farmer people
in your
there,
network.
in my
Yeah.
network. Yeah.
Commune.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to be out there. I like vast open spaces. I find myself like enjoying nature when I'm there. But like being in New York, I very rarely am like, let me go rent a car and drive like 4 hours or whatever, right? Like that just doesn't happen.
I mean,
but
if you want to see some flat land, it's about an hour flight to Columbus. I'll pick you up from the airport.
Hell yeah.
There's a whole bunch of cornfields that have been harvested
Hell yeah,
already,
bud.
and the soybeans are gone. We can just look at corn that's dead.
I know all about that, dude. I used to, well,
The
when I
Kansas
used to live in
City.
Kansas City, we used to drive. Yeah, actually, I don't want to tell this story on the podcast.
Yeah,
but,
well, yeah, I mean,
well, we used to go out to Colorado. We used to drive the whole state, all the way across Kansas, all the way across Colorado.
how long is that?
What's up?
How long
It was
of it?
13 hours each way.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yeah. This was like,
Longest car ride I've ever been is 8 hours, and it's never going to be more than that.
that's some rookie numbers, man.
Yeah, no.
8 hours.
My family's done the drive down to Florida from Jersey before. That's a long one.
I haven't
It's
done
not
that.
not dead straight though, because it's like 25 hours, something like that.
But I feel like that you've got to be like, the anticipation of ending up in Florida is exciting, right?
The anticipation of what you
Like
do.
of what I'm doing, which is like, okay, we get there, we like, get some stuff and then drive, turn around and go home. It's like, it's pretty,
But you get some good stories and memories from back then. Like,
Oh, yeah.
It was about the journey. It was never about the destination.
Stop at a diner, get a sandwich.
Yep,
have a
yep.
coffee.
Some people with like broken down cars on the side of the
Yeah.
road stop and help them maybe.
I love random like roadside diners.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
In the middle of nowhere.
Oh yeah. My like favorite random roadside diner story is we were like driving down from like upstate New York, and we stopped at this random place, and it was very weird vibes like right from the start. And we're sitting there, and eventually the guy in the booth behind us is on this call trying to explain to someone how he was definitely not okay. But basically, like, not only the moon landing was fake, but that it was something that had to do with the Jews that were faking the moon landing.
Somehow.
Yeah.
And he was getting so mad and like cursing this person out because they didn't understand what he was saying.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
it resulted in him getting like pretty anti-Semitic very loudly in the
Yeah.
place.
Who could have seen that coming?
Yeah, it was
Could have
shocking.
seen it coming.
But like, I don't know, like that's the type of thing that really only happens in like a random roadside diner, 3 hours outside of a major city. And I do enjoy
I mean, I think
those
that
types of
happens
experiences.
all the time in random bars in Ohio.
I guess
Like, I
I haven't been to a random bar in Ohio, so I wouldn't know.
It's a very interesting, like when you drive out through the country, it's an interesting blend of people. It's people who have not seen changes of time and they live in like the 50s and 60s still. And you're just like, eh.
The wildest thing is in Kansas, you'll drive down the highway west. If you're going like across Kansas, you get to a point where essentially all of the farmers will just erect their own billboards. So it's not like, you know, advertise.
Yeah.
It's like
Not
their
Lamar.
it's their own billboards, and it'll be like you know, like really like aggressive things about like anti-abortion or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like
They just have an
Jesus.
agenda that they want to get out there.
Yeah, and they're like, I have all this land, like, you know, why not? Right. Yeah, that's some good stuff.
Out in Wyoming, would you have a billboard up on the land? Would you just have a rainbow?
I don't know, man. I guess I think about Wyoming. I think about Kansas City still. I could totally move back to Kansas City. I love it there. But I don't know. So it's like, I guess I don't think I would want a billboard. I think I want to be like, I don't know, actually. I haven't really thought about this.
Like you could propagate any good message on the billboard.
I know.
Anything you wanted more people
Well,
to see.
the other thing about Wyoming that's attractive to me is that I have more Twitter followers than the governor. And it makes me think a lot about sort of
The power that you could have.
the power that I could have.
Could you be
there.
the governor of Wyoming, you think, within a couple years?
This is what I get excited. This is what attracts me to places like that. Yeah.
Do you think that you would do well in politics?
Not currently, but I think I will someday.
Okay.
I think that, you know, people already think I'm like 19 or something and I'm 31. I've got that baby face. So I think I need to like, you know, I've got a few more years to kind of round out myself, I think, and then I'll be ready.
I mean, you could run for president next 2028.
I know. I'm
You'll
not
be
gonna
35.
though. A little bit after. I might have to join the military, I'm thinking.
That would help your campaign.
I think that like that would like I didn't go to college, right? I have all of these like, you know, sort of negative checks against me, right? Like,
yeah, but then you were in the newspaper in Kansas City.
I was in the newspaper in Kansas
that's
City.
good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the founder of Rainbow Wallet, like, that's a positive.
Yeah.
The founder of Rainbow.
I think so.
Can we talk about the name Rainbow and
Yeah.
what that means for a wallet? Like,
Sure.
I feel like we're now in a stage of branding
Yeah.
where like the name isn't intuitively like I think of wallets. Like, what the fuck is a meta mask?
I know.
Am I wearing a mask? Like,
Yeah.
a
I'd
phantom.
love to know the origin of their name.
Yeah.
Right? Like I actually don't know.
Like, because when we were
story.
making, you know, fractional rebranding Tesla, like that was the first time in my life I was like really, really thinking about all the names around me.
Yep.
And I'm looking at like Phantom, and
Yeah.
I'm like, it's kind of like scary. Like that.
Yep.
Why would I
I
trust
don't like that
security
name.
there? But then like Rainbow is just like, oh, it's bright, and I like rainbows.
Yeah.
But like, I'm curious how you came to the name Rainbow.
Yeah. I mean, so we needed to come up with a name.
Yes.
And excuse me. I think that let me think, you know, we were all kind of making lists of names. There weren't very many requirements. I think that the only, you know, I don't even know how serious we were about it being a requirement, but we all sort of were like, we wanted it to be emojiable.
Yeah.
That was kind of like my
Yeah,
contribution
you guys
towards
were
the
ahead of the curve
requirements.
on that one.
I mean, maybe.
In the crypto space,
I
at
feel like
least.
we were, yeah, exactly. I think in the crypto space, I think that in like pretty tech scene apps, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
hipster tech products, like emojiable had been a thing for a while. But then I think that, you know, the kind of like, you know, Ethereum, like, you know, unicorns and rainbows and, you know, glitter, that kind of motif was what attracted us to Rainbow. It was
So like
my
Vitalik core.
yeah, it was
Vitalik
Vitalik Core. Like my boy Christian, co-founder Christian, was the one who I think actually sort of threw Rainbow out as one of the names. I think the one I was pushing was like, it's so funny to think about it now, but it was like Fetty.
Like confetti.
Or like or just like I don't. It's so corny, right? But like
Fetty Wap.
yeah, like that kind of shit. But yeah, no. And then I think the more we thought about Rainbow, the more it stuck. Like it's like it's really usable as a brand where you can imagine and not to get cliche with it, right? But it's like Apple as a brand, right? It sort of is clean. You can put the word Apple in front of all of their product names and it sounds good. It looks good, right? It's like the Apple MacBook, like, you know, as opposed to like
Apple Wallet, Apple Card, Apple.
Yeah, like it sort of is actually flexible in that way, right? If we named it like, you know, crypto coin wallet app, like it's sort of Fetty, or just like a lot of crypto products are really like on the nose or sort of have the word like bit or like, you know,
bit,
crypt, like, or coin or like whatever in there, and that's like actually limiting, I think, from a branding perspective. So Rainbow felt really like open. And then it also, to a degree, felt like Schrodinger's woke almost, where it's like, is this meant to be like, you know, like woke or whatever? And I think the fact that it actually allows people to fill in that blank in their own heads is like a positive, where like people can interpret the name any different way they'd like. You know, also though, it's like everyone in the world knows what a rainbow is.
Yes.
Which is also helpful. And then over time, I think something I really like about the name is just how when people see a rainbow, they'll often take a picture and like tag me in it. And I just think that that's really fun. That like as a brand name, it exists almost in nature, and then it actually people
they think
see
of
the
you
nature.
immediately.
Yes,
like when
they
see
think
a
of our
phenomenon.
brand, which is like really fucking cool.
And like how many times do you see a rainbow versus like how many times do you see confetti?
Yeah.
See
Or
a
how many
rainbow.
times do you see a MetaMask? You know what I mean?
I've
many.
never seen a MetaMask
I've
in the
never
wild.
seen a MetaMask.
Maybe a Fox.
Yeah.
But
Fox.
I still don't.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to just ask more origin names, because like I think of a lot of things in the space about the name, and I'm like, what the fuck were they doing with that? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. But
Yeah,
I
I'd
like the
love to
rainbow
know
because I
Zora's
like
name.
the brand profile you can have with colors. Like
Yeah.
your app is very vibrant.
Yeah.
When you open it up, especially when you go to the tab that shows like the scrolling things and what's hot and shit, like whole bunch of colors. And then it kind of lets you have this like fun aesthetic where you don't feel like, oh, I'm restricted to this palette.
Yeah.
It's like, well, now we can do whatever fucking palette because we're a rainbow.
It's super helpful with regards to partnerships and sort of coming up
thinking
with
about what you guys have done with like all of your rainbow exclusive mints and stuff.
Yeah.
It plays very nicely into
It's
whatever
so easy.
whatever the fuck you want
The
to do.
app-
whatever
ones.
it is, like just make it rainbow. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Just like have any semblance of anything rainbow, and then all of a sudden it's compatible with our brand. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it kind of works out as kind of like this weird overlap where in NFTs, like rainbows are considered more of like a rare trait.
Yeah.
So I think it kind of helps the perception of it. It's like if you were a common, like the rainbow is normally like the trippy or something like rarer. So I don't know. I think it just, you couldn't tell in 2019 that would be the thing.
Yeah.
But like it does
Well, I mean,
help.
dude, at the time, one of the core differentiators of Rainbow when we launched it was that we supported NFTs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we were out here trying to fundraise, right, we would hear from investors saying, what are you guys doing? Like, this is a complete waste of time to do any, like, why aren't you investing in, I don't even know, whatever the thing was, you
Like
know what I
building
mean?
like
Hyperswap interfaces.
Yeah,
like,
or like Yearn vaults.
Well,
or,
Yearn didn't, you know,
it was
this
like
is like
2019.
2019.
Yeah.
So it was like, you know, it was sort of like people were literally saying that we were idiots for putting any time whatsoever into NFT interfaces. Because at the time, I think, you know, the only interesting NFT was like CryptoKitties.
Yeah.
Or really, right? Like that's the one that if you
It basically was.
Punks weren't even NFTs. They're ERC20s in their own
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
So what got your attention with NFTs? Because to be privy to them in 2019, you had to be like, I feel like really in the know, because I didn't know what NFTs were.
Well, when was the CryptoKitty bubble, right?
That was
2017 going into 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
So so at the time, right, like CryptoKitties were the thing that everyone knew of, but no one cared about them anymore.
Yeah.
To us though, right, like the thing that we, this is gonna sound silly, right, but we were very fascinated by the idea that ERC like token standards, things like ERC20s, ERC 721s, that these token standards were the developer platform. So people always talk about like, hey, what are your thoughts about making Rainbow sort of more like, that developers can like develop directly against Rainbow, like that they can build things into Rainbow, et cetera. And our stance has always been that actually these token standards are the best way to achieve this, where, to us, it felt like really important to support all of the popular token standards. And even if there sort of wasn't a, like some popping use case for it, it felt like if you build it, they will come. You know what I mean? Just like if we build this, then it sort of maximally opens up ourselves for like, for the opportunity, like,
for
when
yourself
someone
in
comes
like the
along.
right place at the right
Yeah,
time
exactly.
to hit some escape velocity. or
Yeah, and
something.
that it paid off,
Yeah.
right?
Was it like really challenging to develop
No.
things for 721s? Or was
No.
it a fairly like
No, it's
almost
super
trivial?
easy. Yeah, it was super easy. It was just like, it was okay. Like when I say we were the first wallet to support NFTs, I usually caveat it as like first class citizens, because I actually don't remember distinctly exactly what the level of support was in every other wallet. What I do know though was that Rainbow was the first, like we put them literally front and center. When you opened Rainbow, you would see sort of your ERC20 tokens at the top, and then right below that, your NFTs. Most other products would make your NFTs like multiple taps away as if they were like something you shouldn't care about. So it was more of a design problem than it was like an actual engineering
I don't
problem.
even think MetaMask had them. Because
No,
I was always logging into OpenSea or Rarible
Yeah.
to look at my NFTs. Because
People still, I'm curious how you, well, yeah, I guess actually you guys are living quite the cross-chain world these days, but I think the majority of people still use OpenSea as their, particularly on desktop, people still use OpenSea as almost their like wallet view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For their
I think that's
inventory.
pretty accurate.
I
Yeah.
would say that's still
Or
how I
Blur.
do it. I look at Blur for
Yeah.
I have a hot wallet that is, I don't know how, I just say it for OPSEC shit, whatever. I don't care. I have a hot wallet that is both on a computer and on my phone.
Yeah.
I use it on my phone on Rainbow, but
Yeah.
on my computer, it's set up through MetaMask.
Yeah.
And when I'm checking the portfolio, I use Blur. When
Yeah.
I'm looking at NFTs or transferring NFTs, I'm normally on my computer using OpenSea. And then the
Does
phone,
Blur show 1155s even if they don't
No.
let you trade them?
No.
Okay.
no. But my portfolio that I'm normally trading
Yeah.
is
I would
all
imagine.
721s.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, I'm sure that this is not the first time you've heard that. Obviously,
Yeah.
you know. Like, how does it affect the way you think about design and like designing user interfaces for a wallet when like you know that you and other wallets have the support to view your NFTs, but like a lot of the power users are like, oh yeah, I just go to Blur because that's
Yeah.
where I also trade them. Like, does it make you, and obviously it's
Yeah.
probably like a long-winded answer, but like, does it make you want to build those trading experiences into Rainbow more so, or be like, let's just offload some of that lift to Blur or OpenSea?
Well, so I think that specifically what we're talking about, right, is these power users, right? And what you're also describing, I think, is behavior that is mostly happening on desktop, right? So I think that on mobile, we hear from people, right? They like love using Rainbow to kind of like view their NFTs on mobile, et cetera.
Yeah.
On desktop, I think that really what we're talking about is sort of user behaviors on desktop. Now, does that make us want to sort of build out these build out competing feature sets to like Blur and OpenSea? Like not as, or like maybe, but not because of this. It's sort of like we want to just make it easier to kind of take basic actions from Rainbow instead of making you go to a third-party product. I guess I think the reason that people reach for Blur and OpenSea is because a desktop browser extension is this little viewport that is really not the best way to view your NFT collection, right? People prefer the full screen experience, right? And I think that that's a big reason why people go to the NFT platforms to actually view their collections. I think that, I guess, if you were to, our ideas for how to eat into that user behavior and kind of bring people over to use Rainbow as the way that they manage these collections, I think we're going to be doing two things here that kind of move the needle. One is, so organizational tools. So I think that like, people with, even myself, right? If I open Rainbow, I have too many NFTs.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Too many NFTs. Ton of them.
And most
I need
items
to
don't
be able
even
to
need to be
organize
able
them.
to see or care about for the most part.
Correct.
Yes.
So we're going to be working on some really cool like organizational tools that I think will make, actually like managing your collection a lot easier. But then the second big thing is I think, instead of trying to compete with, first of all, Blur and OpenSea don't really like. This behavior is not their core product. Like being able to like view, like just simply view the contents of your wallet is like not really the thing that they're solving for. But what we're looking to do is actually expand that. So we think that by building out more features, people will prefer Rainbow. The features that I think people are sort of like find attractive that we're working on are things like bulk actions, right? So if you have 50 NFTs, right, like performing bulk actions is a pain in the ass, right? Yeah. Transferring half of them in one is like a pain in the ass, right? But also performing like bulk listing actions, right? Or like bulk like dumping, like just, dump all of them into bids, whatever, right? So I think by building out, we do plan on building out that like the bulk actions type feature set. But this probably won't live in the browser extension itself as much as it'll be like you click a button in the browser extension and then brings you to
like a Rainbow tool.
Yeah, like a full screen web experience.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Before we get too far past the NFT origin stuff, I don't think I've ever told you this.
Yeah.
But one of your tweets was the first time I like legitimately looked into CryptoPunks.
Oh yeah. Was it when I was like, what assets survive like an apocalypse? And it was like.
So I don't remember. So I probably saw those as well. But you were someone like basically I wasn't really.
Dude, I sold all my punks at the bottom, guys. Like before the last run up, I was such a fool.
Well, so because I wasn't really into.
I sold them for like
NFTs
$500.
Oh, I was buying them.
Yeah, it's tough.
I had autoglyphs too. I sold them for like $500.
So Andy didn't know about NFTs.
Yeah, no, that's right. So I was like, this was when I had like gotten into Top Shop, but I wasn't really like buying any other NFTs. Yet, and you were tweeting about punks getting to a 1 ETH floor.
Oh yeah.
And I remember seeing that and being like. I was still basically at that point, I didn't really know very many NFT people. Like I had started to talk to Deez and a few others, and you were one of the people from like non-NFT Twitter world who I was friends with. And I saw your team. I was like, all right, let me look into this. And they were mostly wrapped punks on Rarible back then. People were trading them. And I remember looking at those. So I didn't really even know what I was looking at. And something about that tweet got me to like actually start looking at the punks and doing all of that. But
Hell yeah.
I like specifically remember that like a particular tweet about
many such
punks
cases,
hitting
dude.
1 ETH floor.
Many such
How
cases.
many people did you get into punks?
I don't know.
Held their punks and then.
I don't know. And I don't want to sort of like take credit for people who haven't explicitly been like, it was Mike who turned me onto it or whatever. But I do think that there were other people. It's funny that like people sort of, because I feel like my tweets are not all high signal. And it's funny that
that's
like
one way to say it. I mean, none of ours are.
Yeah.
But I just think it's funny that like, throughout the noise, like people actually, certain ones like click for people.
Yeah. Well, I think like for you going back to what we were talking about earlier with like your understanding of, and just like kind of neurotic studying of like consumer apps and stuff. Like I do think your tweets are high signal with regards to what you like and don't like.
Yeah, true.
And so like there's a lot of other stuff that maybe is not.
Yeah.
But like if you tweet out like I'm really liking this thing.
That means a lot.
That like I take that very seriously. Let me see what this is. Let me look into this. And so it's like if you're actively talking about an NFT collection back when like no one's talking about NFT collections, I was like, let me look at what these are, I guess. Like if Mike's tweeting about them, I'll go check it out.
Yeah.
I mean, those early punk days, I don't remember when I first met you. I don't remember if I was using Rainbow before I actually followed you. I feel like I was following you before, but I remember more of the 2021 tweets and later. Like I in 2020 was like in the shitcoin telegrams.
Okay.
And I was in like Discords with a bunch of degens who are sharing Uniswap things. And back then I feel like, because people would use Rainbow on Uniswap. Like they would connect And I remember that I think I might have been. That's the first time I just thought that I might have been using Rainbow before I ever knew who you were.
Hell yeah. Well, today's the first day I met you IRL, I think, right?
That's
I think
yeah.
so.
I guess when I say met, I guess
No, I
the
know.
Twitter shit post
Yeah.
is what I.
So, as far as speaking of Uniswap, there's a couple ways we could go with that one. But like, I think I first met you probably through Noah at a Uniswap.
These are some
meetup.
rare cuts right here. This is like some people are not aware of kind of how tight this circle is.
Yeah, but so there was like a very small group of like crypto people in like 2018, probably like mid 2018, who would get together, and it was like you and Hayden and Noah.
Yep.
And then I would occasionally go and like talk a little bit about that time and like what. So you were not working full time in crypto yet.
Well, you know, I guess. So it kind of comes back to so like before Rainbow, there was this period of time where I was working with Balance. Right?
I wasn't going to bring it up.
I wasn't. I didn't really want to bring it up either.
We can totally not talk about it.
Yeah. It's hard to like figure out how to talk. So like, you know, Hayden. Yeah, there were these like meetups that were happening at the Rainbow spot.
Yeah.
Or back then it was called the Balance spot, whatever. And Hayden was one of the few people who would come through. I'm honestly struggling to remember. Like, I feel like a bunch of the people who did come through, the other people, I feel like I know them now. But at the time, like I didn't know their names or anything, and I don't really know what they're up to. But I feel like a bunch of them must be up to cool things. But yeah, there was, you know, not much going on in crypto.
Mm-hmm.
Very few like interesting things happening. Hayden was one of the people coming through. And it was like quite clear that he was actually trying to do something and like had fun ideas and sort of had like energy about it, whereas everyone else was still kind of like circling the drain, like trying to figure out like what we're doing, like what's the idea.
Apathetic that time period.
It's like, all right, so the ICO thing isn't going to go anymore. Like, I guess Bitcoin again. We'll just buy more Bitcoin. I don't know.
So these were some very few people who actually had some big ideas who were like energized to build it.
And then I think that I guess like, you know, at the time I didn't really realize that I was good at this, but like over the years I've kind of grown to become like quite a good like recruiter, like in the sense of identifying someone who's talented, who sort of maybe also is like asymmetric, like as in they're talented but they don't know it or the market doesn't know it or whatever, right? And
there's some mispricing going on in
just
their
like
skill set.
Or like that they would be a good they would culturally fit with us, but like not elsewhere kind of thing, whatever the ARB was. But at the time I was like, you know, I had met Noah, and Noah was like, I think it was, he had built Web3 React.
Yeah.
So I'm like a big GitHub creeper. So Noah had built this like really awesome package. And I was like desperately trying to get him to join Rainbow, but it was like at this weird point of time where it was like, I don't even think Rainbow existed yet. It was like, we were like, about to start it.
Like pre-startup, just trying to figure out what it was.
Well, like the product somewhat existed because we were working on it at the previous thing, Balance. But in the end, basically, Noah ends up being Hayden's first hire. I think.
First hire. So he like agreed to go there, kind of without any expectation. But it was like, from my understanding of it, Hayden was like, "Yo, I'm about to raise like $1 million to start this thing. Like, not very much money. Like, do you want to come work here?" And he was like, "Sure." But
can we talk about like the first raise and how hard that was?
Yeah,
and,
for
like,
Rainbow.
Yeah, and how you found the eventual partners you did to raise.
Man, time goes by, so it's like it's not as sort of like, you know, I don't have like the solidified sort of like recollection of it all. But so, I mean, it certainly wasn't like incredibly easy, but it also wasn't incredibly hard. I think that during 2019, I think that like, I guess also looking back on it as well, it's like raising for a seed stage company is very different than raising for like a post Series A company. Yes. So I think that was also, I think what made it a bit easier was that there's simply more people willing to write seed checks than there are like post Series A checks.
Yeah, because the upside is just so much different.
The upside is so much, it's sort of like a clean capped it, you know what I mean? It's just all around a lot more attractive to investors. So yeah, I think that, you know, in 2019 we went out, we tried to raise, I think we raised 1.5 and you know, we spoke to everybody. We ended up getting, you know, the round was like co-led by Collaborative Currency and FinTech Collective, both of which have been really great to us. I really
shout out
love
to
both
Collab.
of them.
I don't know the fintech.
Yeah, that's
but
cool.
Shout out to Collab Currency. They're good
Yeah,
ones.
Derek.
They're
I like
really
them.
good. And honestly, over the year, I'm like, you know, just more and more impressed with them. Like, I really feel like, I bet you know Derek, right?
We're
Yeah.
gonna have him on the pod in NFT
Derek?
NYC.
Derek, yeah.
Yeah, Derek
Yo,
Evers.
Derek's the best. Love Derek. He just like actually he's just really authentic. I feel like he
Yeah.
actually gets it, and it's like, it's not at all like forced, right? Like, I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of VCs, like, oh man, I got in trouble for like chirping people on Twitter about this, but
I
like,
love how honest you are though. That's like one of the best things about your Twitter. You're just
oh
like
wow, thanks.
fire
Yeah,
out.
But there were all these VCs like when the NFT bubble went off, who were like had been crypto VCs for like years and years, and they're like, I don't get NFTs. I'm like, guys, how have you been in crypto? There's like only so many things in crypto. Like, how have you never taken the time to like understand why people like collectible things?
Yeah.
Like, how is it like only now that these things are going to the moon are you like trying to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
But no, Derek is like, I feel like the type who just like it was not forced at all. Like, he just
Yeah.
understood it. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
But then we did Y Combinator, which was like sort of a weird chronology. Typically you do Y Combinator and then raise funds.
Yeah.
But we did it the opposite way. We like, because I wasn't sure that we were going to get into YC, so it's like we used kind of the ambiguity, sort of the uncertainty, to get the round done, right? Like, oh yeah, like, you know, we might be going to YC like imminently. That's why you have to invest now.
Yeah.
And
That always helps when you
Yeah.
have some type of
And-
time.
urgency.
How do you, in retrospect now, with the benefit of hindsight, would you have done Y Combinator again? I feel like there's a lot
No.
of hot takes around.
Yeah,
all
I
of
mean,
that.
so all respect to Y Combinator, actually. I was quite impressed. There were so many things that I was really impressed with at YC. Like, they did this boot camp thing, or like when you go into YC, it's like the first whatever couple days is almost like a factory, like where you go in and it's like, you know, there's this list of kind of like classes that you can pick from, and you go in there and you like learn from the literal experts sort of in 45 minutes, like all of the high level, like, don't make this mistake, don't make that mistake, just like this is like the rule of the road. And those were like so high signal, like,
I'm sure.
truly, like,
And was it like very far reaching as far as like, here's how to do like fucking accounting for the company?
no,
or
it's more like, if
more
you're
like
going to structure, if
strategic?
you're going to make a referral program, like, don't do these mistakes. Like, you know, it's like sort of like all of the like wisdom kind of takeaways from these
20
big,
years.
Yeah. Well, like, and they're not even YCP, or like the people running these courses are all like the dudes from Airbnb who ran the referral program, telling you like, don't do it this way, do it this way instead,
Yeah.
or whatever, right? Now, and I guess the other thing I would say is that at YC, it's like when you would like reach out to like, I forget what like your partner or whatever at YC for advice, even if that guy had just gotten out of like an hour-long meeting with somebody else, it was insane how like freaking immediately laser focused and present they were to your set of like questions. And how like, I don't know, I've never like really met any group of people
Yeah.
who are that sort of like sharp and sort of present in those like that type
Kind
of
of
like
like locked
narrative.
in,
What's up?
like locked in.
Yeah, like it was like, you know, I don't know, like, yeah, just like it was impressive how like engaged they were all the time. All that said, you asked like, would we do it again? I think that it's hard because I guess like what people have told me, right, is that every year Y Combinator is actually like different. They truly like iterate so aggressively that like my experience could have even been like during one of the what do they call it? Like the classes where they were like figuring it out. Like, so every class at YC, every sort of like new, like, yeah, class at YC, when I say class, I mean like summer or winter or whatever.
Yeah.
They so aggressively change the format. Now, my takeaway from it though was that like Rainbow, when we did YC, we were still like, we had a product, but the product could do like, Rainbow at that time could like do transfers,
Yeah.
right? Like you could simply transfer tokens, right? We didn't have the full feature set. And so in a sense, I would almost consider us pre-product, right? Like we were still working on the thing. And weekly when we'd go into the YC like meetings and they'd be like, okay, so like what's been up over the last week? We'd be like, yeah, well, we're still working on it. You know, like, man, right? We're still going.
Yeah.
Whereas the
Writing
value,
code.
yeah, like the thing that I saw other people get value from is like if you are at a place in your company in which you can literally iterate weekly based off of the feedback given by YC, right? That is the highest leverage time to go to YC, right? Like when you can actually sort of based on the advice or feedback, whatever, to actually make a change, like run it and see what happens. So being at a point in your product cycle that actually allows you to iterate, that's sort of the highest leverage time to do it. Now, what I was surprised by is how sort of YC didn't seem to really know that themselves, or like I would have assumed that YC would have known that about their own program and sort of like, you know, so when they accepted us, I was like, oh, we must be ready. Like we must actually be like at a point in the company where, you know, they can make an impact. But
Yeah.
I sort of came away feeling like, I don't know if that was that true. I feel like we didn't get as much value as other people did because of that fact, because we were like building still mostly, and like not really ready to do the quick iterations that,
I feel like YC, do they have that many crypto companies that go through there?
I think a
It's like
decent
an
chunk.
it
right?
sort of depends. Like I think it's almost like it changes all the time because like again they have two classes a year. It's like the summer and the winter classes, and I do sort of think that the market dynamics change like their admittance of crypto companies. Like when we were going through it, it was like us and TRM Labs.
Okay,
They were our boys. They sat next to us. Let me think who else. But then for whatever reason they paired, or I think it makes a lot of sense, frankly, right? But it was like, you know, at YC they'll have like things that have to do with gaming. They're all like together, right? Things that have to do with like biotech, like they're all together. The crypto ones were like lumped together. It was like half crypto and half like Venezuelan tech companies. And it's because, right, it makes sense, right? It was like they were, you know, so it was a lot of like not even crypto related, but it would be like fintech products that are geared at like remittance payments to Venezuela.
Completely different backbone. And
But it sort of is like similar, right? Where
Yeah.
it's like, you know, it's
Bank
sort of
the
like
unbanked.
bank the unbanked, like sort of, yeah, trying to find like, you know, the highest, you know, leveraged like locations, right? Like,
Yeah. Cool.
What do you think's like the most important lesson you've learned from raising capital?
Um,
I feel like it's a tough thing
yeah,
to do correctly, and then obviously you have a lot of experience looking
Yeah.
back in hindsight and seeing.
I think that like and again, I'm not someone who loves to like just like read endlessly or otherwise kind of like I sort of, you know, I find pieces of wisdom in all different ways and I don't sort of and then I move on. I don't sort of like endlessly seek wisdom. Like some people will like sit here and read books about raising money like for weeks and weeks or whatever, right?
One book's good.
So what I would learn, I guess, like, okay, so we raised a Series A in 2021. And I think that throughout my life, I had been like, the wisdom had kind of been pounded into my head to like not raise too much money or to not raise money on terms that are like sort of you're never going to be able to like achieve again kind of thing, right? And that said, I think that you know, we raised money in 2021. It was very easy to raise money then.
Yes.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, we remember.
Yes. Now, in hindsight, we should have raised more money because of that, right? And I think that nowadays you'll see even like Paul Graham on Twitter talking, giving advice to like AI companies, being like, "Hey, yeah, if someone's willing to give you all of this money, you should say yes and then not spend it, right? Like you should just secure, you know,
Your 10-year runway.
yeah, like
Yes.
that is such an amazing sort of position to be in. Now we sort of didn't. So it's like we could have raised way more money at wild terms, right? And in hindsight, we should have, because then we would have like been able to secure like a much longer runway. Yeah, I think as well, like other mistakes or like things that we learned, right, is like we did grow the team way too quickly without really sort of having a like, you know, like a process or hierarchy that was also scaling at the same pace, right? So it's like we grew the team without really having effective like hierarchies and sort of effective processes. Yeah.
It sounds familiar.
So I think that was like the big thing I learned was, about fundraising was that like once in a while it is worth, like, you know, like it would have been worth it for us to raise insane amount of money at an insane like an even more insane valuation, and then just sat on it, because then it would have been, you know, like for example, this last year we've been fundraising and it's been very difficult, you know. It's a much different market, right, than it was in 2021. I think.
Yeah, no, totally. I think like similar experience. And I think like we had raised enough that if we had done things differently, we probably, you know, there's probably a world where we don't like shut the company down because it's not, you know, we just have such a ridiculous runway. We can iterate for the next however many years. But like, I think they really go together of like, once you raise the money, you're like, oh, now I got to spend all this money because we're a, you know, we
Growth
raised
company.
we raised at a $300 million valuation. We're like, we
Yeah.
now have to operate like we are a $300 million valuation company.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you fucking don't. You can just still be like 6 people trying to figure shit out.
Yeah.
Just because someone wanted to give you that much money doesn't mean you have to, you know, pretend you're something that you're not.
The people that I know who sort of have been who have run their things that way, actually, I've gained a lot of respect for, right? Like, there are a couple of our friends who have who raised money. Like, I don't think even as much as we did necessarily for our 2 ventures respectively, but like, I don't know. Yeah, like, I think like, you know, Mint.fun is still a 5-person team or something like this, like, or like whatever, less than 10.
Yeah, they're definitely small.
Yeah, like Party DAO, like I also think that they're like 10 or so. I don't know.
I think
right?
they're like 8 or 9. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like both of these teams raised enough money to have 4, 5, 6 years of runway at those sizes, and I think that that's like really was really wise of them.
Yeah, when like you see that with Mint.fun already, where they've completely pivoted the product once.
Yep.
And like maybe they will again.
Wait, you mean from Context to Mint?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and because I invested in both those companies for transparency, but like
I didn't, but I love them.
Yeah.
Shout out Worm.
Oh yeah, I mean also just like Worm's the man. His Twitter sometimes he's so his like sense of humor is like so dry that there's times where he'll interact with me and I'll be like, I know him personally. I know what he is like, and I can't tell if he's joking or not.
I also get this, and then sometimes I'm like I'm so confident that it's a bit, and then it's like not a bit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, my bad, dude. Like,
yeah,
you know.
I am completely incapable of telling when he's being serious or not on Twitter.
Yeah. He's a funny guy, like Worm.
Yeah.
Shout
He's
Worm.
a cool dude. Smart guy.
Smart guy.
I originally met him through Dom forever ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they were all friends from who knows.
Yeah.
But you know, I totally
the
agree.
inventor of Vine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he's doing something. He's making things still.
Dom is a legend. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't heard from him in a long time.
Have you made a good amount of angel investments?
No.
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 I think I'm at like close to 20 on my spreadsheet.
Nice.
I've learned too much shit the hard way. Like, if it's not a fuck yes, it's a fuck no.
Yeah, I just like am really
bet on
focused on
people
Rainbow.
over ideas. It's like all the obvious cliche shit, all the shit that Paul Graham wrote in his essays.
Wait, he's smart. He knows what he's talking about.
I know all this shit. Like, you make the mistake and you're like, God damn it! Like, I read that like 3 years before I made the investment, and still did it. But it's when you get a win or a couple wins, it's like, all right, load up the chamber. Time to go hunting.
Well, I think what you just said is interesting that you were just really focused on Rainbow, because I think for a long time there was a conversation about this. It was proposed in a dumb way, but I remember someone, I won't name who because I do remember who it was, basically proposed the idea that like,
oh, I know what this is.
That like VCs should not let their founders like have it be like part of like their raising, that like founders should not be able to like angel invest or like actively trade crypto or things like that, because they should be like solely focused on
Yeah.
the success of their company.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's really stupid. And that is really stupid, I think.
That is really stupid.
Like to make
or like
it
have that as a rule.
yeah,
like
it's like the Cardinals saying that Kyler Murray can't play Call of Duty, or like
Yeah.
that he has to actually watch game tape because they're
Tyreek
like,
Hill isn't watching
yeah,
tape.
well, because
He's
it's like
playing
if
Madden.
you have to do that, then you don't actually trust them. You don't think
Yeah.
that they could do a good job. You have to babysit them.
Yeah.
But like I have over the last couple of years definitely gained a lot more of an understanding for like if you really want to be all in on something and do that, like
Yeah.
it's very hard to actually be a helpful angel investor. It's like I've had people who angel invested in our companies who then I never heard from again.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't want to be that person to the people who I angel invest in.
Well, sometimes they don't care.
Yeah, sometimes they just want the money.
Yeah,
They don't care.
yeah.
And just like a couple shills on Twitter.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a challenging like balancing act.
I think it's more just like knowing myself,
Yeah.
right? Like if I had to take meetings all the time with people and, hear their pitch, then my brain starts thinking about their problems. You know what I mean? And like, I actually just don't have I really want to be thinking about Rainbow's problems. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I really can't help myself in sort of, heavily ADHD. Like I just can't resist sort of
You're like,
thinking
oh,
about
there's this problem that like maybe I could solve it, but it's
yeah,
not
and
my
it's
problem.
like,
but
let
like,
me get
maybe I
on
can solve
another
it.
phone call. Like, let me connect them with so and so. And it's just like, I don't know. So yeah, I personally have just been really focused on Rainbow and like, yeah,
What does a day in the life look like for you right now?
spent a lot of time in meetings. We're wrapping up a fundraise right now, so I've been spending a lot of time talking with investors. I guess I don't know. Tends to be a lot of meetings.
Yeah.
Like internal, external meetings. I work really closely with the product team and the growth team at Rainbow. And let me think. Yeah.
Just meetings.
know if that's
Do you take
a good
most of your
answer.
meetings at your desk? Do you walk and get out for any of them?
Bring Milady on a walk.
Yeah. I mean, that was why I was a couple minutes late. I had to take Milady out for a walk.
Yeah.
But
Did you name the animal, the dog, Milady, before or after you minted or bought My Lady?
I named her Milady like 2 days before kind of like the big cancellation of Milady. And
you
then
bought the top.
yeah, and then I was like, shit, I can't call her Milady. I have to call her like Millie. And then now she's just called Millie. I call her Millie now mostly because it's it's far more like ergonomic to say than Milady. Milady doesn't really roll off the tongue in the same way.
But going back, yeah, take some meetings on walks with Milady.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess like as well, just knowing myself, like I tend to not take walking meetings unless it's almost like I don't even know, because I was about to say like one-on-ones or something, but I'm such an aggressive note taker now.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I really have to have like my notes
I'm
open.
very much I'm more present when I'm walking. Like
Yeah.
if somebody wants to like pitch me something and I need to think about it, I actually like do better on a walk, because when I'm in front of my fucking screen, I'm just like Twitter, Discord, Telegram.
I feel like
Yeah.
I can like
Trading
work
view.
things out with people while I'm walking. You know what I mean? Like if it's sort of like a compromise needs to be met, like I don't know why walking is good, but I don't know. I sort of became really militant about note taking at some point. I'd say like a
What's
year
your
and a half, 2 years
note-taking
ago.
app of choice?
It's just Notion right now, just
Yeah.
because I tend to be able, or like we use Notion at Rainbow for everything, and then even if my notes are like whatever private, it's still just easier to find them. It's sort of like instead of fracturing it.
Have you used that Firefly AI thing that like
No.
gives you meeting notes?
Oh no, but I have been playing with Rewind.ai, which is slightly different because Firefly I think is the one that like joins your calls as a bot.
Yeah.
Which is like fine and stuff, but
It's kind of weird seeing it.
kinda
there.
weird.
It's another window.
yeah, and but with Rewind AI, it does it's arguably even more like sus, but it's cool, where instead of like joining your meeting, it literally just records all of the audio that comes across your Mac, no matter what it comes from, right?
Okay.
And then you can then search it. So like you can, it sort of automatically listens to all of your phone calls, and then automatically transcribes it and automatically generates summaries and stuff. So that's been cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I feel like the AI tooling has just gotten like
It's only gonna get
the
better
last
too.
year or
Yeah, it
two
feels
for-
like we're in this really weird gap where it's a pain in the ass to do some simple things with AI, and that like I feel like in 8 months it's just going to be like every app that you know now is just going to be obsolete. like because it's just gonna all have been like integrated sort of
more deeply
into everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like even when we're doing like the pod and stuff, there's a lot better show notes that the apps will do now. Like before it was kind of shitty, a lot wrong. Like now it's like when Andy and I do the duo pod and it just does it. I cut out a few of them. Like that's a little excessive, but like it takes what would have taken me an hour, like 90 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy how much better it's gotten since we started the pod.
And it's like, you know, what quality does it have to be? If it takes you an hour, but you can do it in 90 seconds, it's like, as long as it's 85% is good, it's show notes. Who really gives a shit? Like,
exactly.
Who cares?
Yeah.
For me too, there's like I listen to these ones back, but when it's Andy and I duo, it's like the virtual thing. It's shorter. These I get some gratification when I listen back. It kind of like crystallizes the conversation in a new way. Because I'll listen to this and starting probably next week, the week after next week, listen, notes, and I make art around the conversation. So I have to re-listen to it to do the art.
Nice.
And obviously
I think the AI can do that now too.
Probably.
No, I'm a fucking artist. I gotta make the art. Like this is
Well, it
was just a joke.
This
It was
is
like
the one outlet that I have to be creative,
Yeah.
but then not have any expectation. Like the art is the thumbnail for the episode, and then we give it to people for free. So there's no like, oh, you need to buy my shit.
Yeah.
It's like I'm just gonna force feed it down your throat if you want it, and if not, it's cool. But it's like the only way I feel comfortable putting something on chain.
How do you make art?
With Midjourney mostly. Midjourney, Dolly.
So you are
Stable
you're using the AI. That's so funny.
Little bit of Photoshop,
Okay,
the
sweet.
generative fill in Photoshop. It's still kind of shitty, but it's getting better.
Hell yeah.
And other than that, I haven't dabbled too much.
He uses like a wizard with Midjourney though.
Dude, it's funny. I still haven't used Midjourney because I hate Discord, guys.
They're
Discord
gonna
sucks.
have a window
I've
app
heard this.
or like
Yeah.
a web app.
I've heard this.
Yeah,
I'll try it then.
It's pretty soon.
Yeah,
They have
nice.
it in beta right now. They have
Nice.
like some videos of it, but it is weird in Discord because like you were mentioning being ADHD.
Yeah.
If you're in Discord, it's like you're in an ADHD environment. Like it's hard to focus. It's hard to get in the zone because you're in 37 different channels, even if they're in fucking folders. And
Are
they're
you in
popping up.
Discord as much as you were back in the or tell me how your
My screen time allocation.
or
breaks
like
down?
tell me like how your usage of Discord has changed since sort of like the peak of the mania.
I
would
was
imagine.
I was never really heavy on Discord.
Yeah.
Like I've been using Discord for years to play video games with my friends, and then I would go in every once in a while, but I would get like really overwhelmed by Discord, and so like I've always kind of been like a solo like channel or solo server Discord user, where it's like I will have one server that I am active in, and then if I get pinged in other ones, I'll go back and see what it is or something. But like for me now, I'm even worse. Unless I join like my Discord with my friends to play games, which is not that often anymore, I have a thread in a channel in one Discord, and that is the only thing I use Discord for. And it's for fantasy sports. It's not even for crypto stuff. And so like my Discord basically just stays in that one thread all the time, and then like DMs here and there.
So I looked up January 9th through the 13th, and I basically spent 35 hours on Twitter, 11 hours in messages, 3 hours in Telegram, 25 minutes in Discord.
Wow, yeah. So Telegram beat it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use Telegram. I sort of was a holdout on both Discord and Telegram, but now I'm like a pretty big user of Telegram.
Back in
love
2020,
Telegram.
I would say until I quote unquote became an influencer, I loved Discord. Like Discord was like our friend Jez calls it church. Like Discord is the new church.
Yeah.
And I was at church all day. Like Punk's Discord, completely open. It was where Snowfro. It was where a bunch of early OGs were just.
I was active in the Punks Discord back when we were talking about like in the 2018 era.
Was it good? Was it quiet?
It was quiet. Yes.
It was quiet enough when I got there that like when you would go to bed, you'd wake up and within 5 minutes you could read everything that happened at night. There was no like torrent of stimuli that you couldn't catch up. But once probably in the summer of 2021 when I started working, once it became a job, honestly, like once Discord becomes like your job, you're like, fuck Discord. Like, like there's this shift of like, I was already annoyed with the Punks chat. But the Art Blocks chat was still good. There was good community of like early generative art collectors who just like nerd the fuck out over the stats of the rarity of like as soon as a drop comes out, we got pie charts, we got fucking bar graphs, we got every nerd in the data viz showing off their stuff. And I love that. But then once it became your job, you're like, okay, I got to be in here all day, but I'm in this Discord and I'm not as active in the other Discords. And then now it's like, I'm in the We Do a Little Discord. I check on it, do a hood morning every day, check the general chat, post some memes.
Yeah.
And then with some of the Ordinal hype, I've been a little bit more active in there because there's a few people in our community who like are big into Ordinals.
Can I ask about Ordinals?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Because only very recently do I think I actually understood what inscriptions were.
Yeah.
Like, it's sort of, I don't know, like there's a lot, it's so much going on. I don't like sort of immediately.
I don't even know if I could say I fully understand it. I mean, the way I don't understand the super technical aspect.
Yeah.
I understand that a Satoshi is the smallest divisible amount of a Bitcoin, and that you can inscribe something that is then read by a third party who will tell you.
So inscriptions though, like, sorry, is there, so with sort of like the BRC20s or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like those sort of have no, like I can just sort of take that JSON blob of like ticker this, like, so there's no way to control sort of a hard cap on them. Like anyone can just be minting more of them all the time, right? Like,
yeah, kind of theoretically.
Okay. But then with Ordinals, is it different? Because I see people trading Ordinals as if they are scarce or unique or whatever. But then I thought that Ordinals was almost just a brand name on top of inscriptions. But like are they, so like, can I infinite mint myself one of these Bitcoin NFTs? No.
Because and I'll probably botch the hell out of this, and then the technical people listening will be like, this idiot. But the way I understand it is the protocol or whatever that KC developed that does the inscriptions, the Ordinals, it's like it all starts from Ordinal 0.
Yeah.
And it's now at Ordinal, I don't know, like 6 million.
Okay.
But they have that unique number, and if you were to mint a new one, it would be like 6,100,000.
And so the canonical for like a collection or for BRC20s.
Yeah,
that like these are the canonical inscriptions,
like the indexes in which like
yeah,
okay.
And so like you can mint more of whatever you want,
but then like the indexers would treat them as invalid.
Know that it's a scam collection or whatever.
So a lot of like some of the stuff that's got hyped up recently, like these fucking node monkeys, they were inscribed back in last February, like the first or second week when Ordinals came out.
Yeah.
And they were in the first 100,000.
Okay.
So there's this idea that like, maybe the first 100 have a lot of value, the first 1,000 have a lot of value. I don't really take too much into consideration like the Ordinal number itself, but I understand like that's a big narrative in their streets. Like we saw these Bitcoin shrooms at Sotheby's sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Well, it's because they're like Ordinal like 42 or now, like 28 or something.
Do you guys get attracted to like sort of these new markets or the like whatever, like the node monkeys, whatever, because of liquidity and volume? Like, is it just sort of like now it's viable, it's a thing that can be traded, etc.?
For me, I feel like most of my livelihood comes from my trading / investing / speculation pool of talent. Yeah. And when I saw the node monkeys, I actually had a friend telling me like, you need to mint these. Like our friend Moon was telling me at 0.03, like mint these. I'm like, fuck you. It's Christmas. Like it was like 2 days before Christmas. It's like the 23rd. And I'm like, I'm out. So I kind of knew these node monkeys were a thing. I knew they were minting. I came back from Christmas thing. And then
this Christmas or last Christmas?
This Christmas.
Okay.
Like this was just like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I come back and now they're out, but they're not revealing, I think, until like the 29th. So I'm paying attention. I'm at home. They start revealing. I go to their website and I had a very similar experience to when I found the punks. Like they have a very clean website called Monkey Dex. And it's like a Pokédex where you can see, but it's like written in like 1980 or 1990s type design. It's very snappy. Yeah. Like when
it's a nice website.
You can use your keyboard and like hit escape and it'll just pop out real immediately. Yeah. And like, anyway, I'm using their site and I'm going through the collection and I'm like, this is a lot better than I want to give it credit for. Like,
Yeah.
I had this feeling of like, okay, I've seen a lot of shit.
No, I zoomed in and looked at each one of them after you called it out for
Yeah.
being like, I forget what you said. It, like made you feel feelings or something, and I was like, wow, dude, he's just feeling feelings, bro. I
How
gotta
high
look at
is
these.
he? Like, what
Yeah.
strain is that? But I'm looking at them and I'm like, wow, this feels like something worth paying attention to.
Yeah.
And then I have this feeling that I get sometimes, and sometimes it's bad, but I'm laying in bed and it's past midnight and my wife is like half asleep
And you're like, I don't own enough node monks.
and I'm restless on my phone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, babe, I'm just going to go to my computer for a bit. Like, I got to buy one of these because if I wake up and they're more.
Yeah.
So, like, I go to Simple Swap, send over, I think I put like a quarter of a Bitcoin in ETH. I'm like, I'm going to start buying a few of these. No idea what I'm doing on Ordinals. First transaction.
Wait, sorry. You were saying you swapped ETH for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Yeah.
that's an interesting detail.
When was the last time you had done that prior to doing this for Ordinals?
Dude, this is sad to say. So last spring, when Ordinals came out, it was the first time I thought I should ever own Bitcoin since like prior to Uniswap summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had taken, I don't know, I might have bought like 20 Bitcoin with my ETH back then. Then over the summer, after hosting a bunch of spaces, we talked a bunch with Udi and the Ordinals people, and I just saw nothing I liked, like nothing. And I was like, man, this is all shit. Like they've had like 4 months to like do shit.
Yeah.
And like this looks
Do
like shit.
anything.
Yeah.
So I sold all the Bitcoin back to ETH. And then ETH BTC went down like 20%. So it was a really stupid trade. But going back was the first time, like now I have over a couple Bitcoin, but it was all because like, oh, I need to be paying attention to this ecosystem. And like the idea for me for Bitcoin was always like, this is a store of value. This is digital gold. It doesn't really have like a expendable use case. But once Ordinals start going up in price, like the unit bias is so real. Like people, like even the
Wait, sorry. The idea that basically because an NFT might cost 0.0000 like 3 BTC, people think of it as cheap.
Yeah, like a node monkey at 0.1
Sounds free.
feels so much cheaper
Yeah.
than saying this is like a 2 Ethereum floor. So anyway, the node monkey was like 0.06. I buy it and it takes 3.5 hours. So it is now 4 a.m.
And sorry, how does this? Okay, so I know I've been seeing people talk about like Bitcoin MEV, right? But when you're saying buying the Node Monkey cost 3 hours, or it took 3 hours. Was there risk along the way and during that 3 hours that you could have not gotten it?
Yes. So
And how would that have happened? Someone could have come along.
the way that I understand it, and I completely botched this, is when you buy it on Magic Eden, it broadcasts a transaction on the Magic Eden. Like, soon as you broadcast the transaction to the Bitcoin network, it broadcasts it on Magic Eden, and it locks that ordinal from being bought. And
On
since like
Magic
Magic Eden is really the only marketplace for these right now.
What was the other website you said? Simple Swap? I don't know what that is.
So Simple Swap is
It's
like
just like a bridge.
it's a bridge
To
It's
Bitcoin.
any chain to any
I see.
chain.
So it's I see. So it's like, you know,
I use it Ethereum to Tezos.
you and you know,
Some like
Lazarus.
yeah, you're market making with North Korea or something.
Yeah, it's a very nice way to fund a new
go from
wallet. And have it be like a private thing. So use Simple Swap, and I'm up till like 4 a.m. waiting for that first one. I'm like, I'm fucking tired. Like, I buy a hoodie, I go to bed, like the price is up 50%, like I thought it was gonna be, and I just buy, I think, like 5 more.
Nice.
And then I've sold one at 0.28. There's some FUD.
What are they at now?
They were 0.22 this morning.
Okay.
So I sold one at 0.28. Then a lot of people have told me they've had not good interactions with the founder. He might be like, you know, I don't know, bipolar, schizophrenic, whatever.
Nice.
He's threatened people.
Yeah.
He's like,
How much of your, you know, I feel like I've never been anything close to as sort of like, I don't know. Like, I feel like, you know, you're you're like deeply into NFT trading and investing, et cetera. How much does sort of, and I know that this sort of, the answer might have you might have had different answers at different points in time, but like nowadays, how much does that even matter to you? that
NFT
like
trading and
well, no, sorry, that like the founder might be volatile.
Oh,
For example,
so,
like
I
when
mean-
you are buying node monkeys, how much of your thesis like has anything to do with like
The founder.
the founder's sort of
Not
like
as
plans, like you know what I
Um,
mean?
Yeah, so normally it depends on the scope of the project.
Yeah.
Like the Node Monkey scope is a lot like the Punk scope.
Yeah, which like it is what it is.
Yes.
Sort of node
so in that
updates.
sense, it shouldn't matter as much. I also, sometimes I feel like I need a reason to sell.
Yeah,
Like sometimes I should just sell. Like if I
Yeah.
made triple my money,
yeah,
like what is the risk adjusted
yeah.
reward of the if I bought this at 0.06 and it's now 0.28, like what's the chance it's going to go up 5x again, 4x again? Like it's not that
Forgive
high.
me if this has been answered. I'm sure it has on other episodes, but like, did you have a background and what was your background before NFT trade? Like, did you have any sort of like experience in financial markets or like poker or anything? Like,
No, I'm not a poker brain.
Okay.
So my experience in financial markets, have you ever played RuneScape?
yeah.
Have you played old school RuneScape?
Did I what now?
Play old school RuneScape? Like
I only played RuneScape in middle school.
Okay.
So,
But,
yes.
So you remember party hats in RuneScape?
you were certainly on some other level of RuneScape that I was not on.
So the party hats.
Like I don't know. About the
So
part.
like the party hats in RuneScape, they
Yeah.
came out. I might be off by a year, but I think it was 2021 Christmas,
Okay.
and there was a month long.
So you're still playing RuneScape?
not. I mean, not
Because
as much
2021.
now,
Okay.
but like.
So I stopped in like 08, I feel like.
No, no,
Or
I
like,
played.
sorry, 08 is a high school for me, so it would have been like 04.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I started playing RuneScape maybe in 06.
Okay.
So I was 5 years late to this event. I stopped playing in 2012.
Oh, 2001. You said 2021.
Oh shit.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh shit. No, 2001.
Okay,
Jesus
right,
Christ.
yeah.
No.
I was like, I don't think that's right. But
No, no,
I,
no, no,
I didn't really play RuneScape.
No,
I don't
sorry.
know.
They came out in 2001. I stopped playing RuneScape for the most part in 2019. But I played it for the better part of like 15 years.
Nice. Okay. That gives you all. You know how many other people? What's his name? Bert from what's his name? Bert Miller.
Yeah,
Robert
from-
Miller over
from-
at Flashbots.
Yeah.
He also like he got turned on to there's a couple of sort of avenues to crypto that are like non-typical.
Yeah.
RuneScape is a big one.
That
Poker,
market-
Poker's a big
RuneScape,
one.
daily fantasy,
Drugs.
drugs. I think like it
Like-
depends, but people who like finding weird edges
Yeah.
and min-maxing things
Yeah.
and like
For me, like the way I would play the market was I would market make the most expensive items in the game. These things came out in 2001, not 2021.
Yeah.
And by like 2008, they were worth like billions of in-game currency, which was like $2,000.
I just discovered a whole bunch of like CS:GO items in my
Oh,
inventory.
that's nice.
Yeah.
That's a nice.
I had
come up.
forgotten all about them.
Some case hardened AKs and some.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's only a couple $100 there, but I was like,
still something.
sick, dude. Yeah.
I remember back when I was in high school and there was the Diablo real money auction house like marketplace stuff before they got rid of it. And like you'd have the friend who'd come in and be like, dude, I found an item playing Diablo yesterday and sold it for like $200. It's like the craziest thing because we're all broke in high school playing video
Yeah.
games. Those were, I feel like it was a very specific type of person who was like, I'm going to grind these video
Yeah,
games
yeah,
I
to try
loved
to
it,
make
dude.
like,
I've thought about going back in the bear market.
Yeah.
During the summer, I was like, man, why don't I just like start playing again?
I just discovered these items in my CS:GO inventory because I just recently downloaded Steam for the
Ooh.
first time in like 15 years.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I've been having dreams lately that made me want to play Grand Theft Auto again.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I've
I
been
was
playing
like,
Grand Theft Auto recently too.
You were like,
I
I
need
keep
to-
having these dreams about
Yeah.
killing hookers,
Cops.
no,
This guy shoots cops.
RPGing helicopters,
Yeah.
and
I don't know what it was. So yeah, but I sort of like, I was trying to figure out how to play Grand Theft Auto on my Mac,
Yeah.
and I'm
Can
still
you?
not. It's like too complicated. I might need to.
Just like buy a PS5. It's not that expensive.
Yeah,
The Windows computer, man.
I'm a PC guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a computer that I should just finish building. Like if it's sitting on the parts for like.
You have
Yeah.
it half
Multiple-
built, but
yeah.
you just need
I
like
feel
a
like,
graphics card.
Deez, were you building your own computers?
No, well, I should have been doing the Franken thing, but I, for whatever reason,
Well, that wasn't desire. Like that was like some shit I had to do.
Well, I
as
had
was
to
But
like
then I
14.
assume at some point, if you were
Yeah,
into gaming,
correct.
you started building your own gaming.
I
PC.
built it. Yeah, like I wasn't. The most I ever got into gaming was in Kansas City, and it was because me and my friends were like living in the same house, and we had gigabit internet, because we were we had Google Fiber.
Yeah.
We were like the third house in the country to get gigabit internet.
That's
and
sick.
we would just play Counter-Strike a lot.
And you had really good paying.
I was fucking
We had the
awful.
best paying.
So
I was so bad at Counter-Strike and like all those shooter games.
Yeah.
we had the same like shitty Dell computer from 2002 to 2012. So it was a constraint where it forced me to just play RuneScape because I couldn't play WoW. Like I would download WoW and then it wouldn't let me run it because the computer didn't have a graphics card.
Yeah.
So the RuneScape love was also like, well, this is the only game I can really play that has a like long-term path. A lot of it was like I go on mini clip. I go
like
on
Flash games.
new
and stuff.
grounds, but like I couldn't really.
That's
do
how
it.
I got
played
into coding.
Neopets on my computer.
I had
a while ago.
Neopets too. There was a time where I used to play. It started out Cartoon Orbit. Like they had a competitive, almost like a card game. You would play 7 cards. You would play 4 cards, and then you would get a new hand and play 3 cards, and then you had a board and you had a whole scoring system. I sold all of those for Neopets. I got the lab in Neopets where like every day you could spark your Neopet and it would give you a random one.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you'd get like the fucking rare breed rainbow, and then you would sell it for in-game shit. And then I traded all that for RuneScape Gold. So it was like my childhood like built up. And then I lost all the RuneScape Gold gambling in high school. So it was like everything I'd earned my whole childhood, I lost all of it.
Did you ever make Flash games?
No, I always have like in my head wanted to make games,
Yeah.
but I was always better at playing them.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm not very creative.
Yeah.
And so like I think I can be creative in certain ways, but I think like the idea of making things that other people consumed has always been like more of a, oh, that's like a fun idea, but I'm not super driven to do that. Like I also didn't really write code growing up.
Yeah. When did you get into code?
So I took a programming class in 8th grade.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is dope. This is
Yeah.
definitely what I want to do. And so I like took like the single programming track throughout all of high school. But I wasn't
What
like
was
going
it?
home.
What were you learning? Java?
No,
feel like
it was
high
like
school is very
Visual
Java.
Basic.
Oh yeah, I did that shit too. Okay,
Yeah, and
cool.
it was cool, but like
Yeah.
honestly, for the most part, I liked that class because like we were the kids who learned how to like upload Halo and all that shit to
Yeah.
like the school files,
Yeah.
and we would just
Yeah.
like play shooter games while our teacher was in the other room like grading
Yeah.
her math papers. And so like like all throughout high school and honestly most of college, like I did well in school, but I had very minimal work ethic. And I really just wanted to play video games. That was all I cared about. Was just how many hours can I put into whatever game me and Lewis and our friends were playing.
I feel like that's such a common thing for a lot of people in crypto. Like we don't have good, I mean, not we, I don't have like a good, background in finance. I don't have a good background in anything other than like I played a ton of
The
video
internet.
games.
Yeah.
I'm good at PvP games.
I'm like, I
and,
went to Ohio
finding weird
State, got a
edges.
comms degree.
Yeah.
Because like I signed up for computer science without ever taking a computer science class. I finished software 1, like got hung up on recursion and was just like,
Fuck
I'm
this.
fucked. Like this is the guy who got me into smoking weed was
In college.
yeah, I never
Wow,
smoked weed.
dude.
So I thought weed was heroin until I
Yeah.
was like 18.
Interesting.
I didn't,
Growing
I
up
didn't
in Massachusetts.
try even a sip of alcohol until I was like, I guess I tried my first sip of alcohol ever freshman year of college.
Yeah.
Huh.
I didn't get high for the first time until after college.
Growing up in Massachusetts, like everybody, even the kids who like ranked at the top of the class, like the top 5 kids in the class by GPA or whatever, it's like everyone smoked weed to some degree. I
had no
never
idea
liked
about that.
alcohol.
Massachusetts.
Yeah, I don't know why it's like this. I feel like it's, I don't know. Maybe it's like my town or what. I don't know what it is.
I feel like a lot of kids smoked weed in my high school as well.
Yeah.
I was very religious growing up.
Oh yeah.
And so for me, it was more like a, this is not what God would want me to do kind
Oh
of thing.
cool.
I just
You have a
like,
fun
really,
was it fun one? You have a was it a
It was pretty normal.
pretty normal
Christianity.
okay.
Yeah.
It
My
would've been
dad's
cool
a
if
pastor.
it was
And so
yeah.
it was like a very big part of my life growing up was religion.
Whoa, dude.
Yeah.
Does
Most
he
people are
bless
very
your
surprised.
does he ever bless your NFTs?
I've never asked him to pray for my NFTs. I think that I
You
think he
should,
would be
dude.
insulted by that.
Okay.
He is really big into crypto.
Oh, yeah?
So his first time.
So it's not the mark of the beast.
no,
Okay.
it's not.
Okay, because I'm always like worried. I'm like, shit, dude. Am I out here like, like propagating the mark of the beast right now? Like is
Do you
this
really,
least-
does that keep you up at night
I
sometimes?
don't know,
At least
sometimes whenever someone
my
bring
dad's doctrine, he's cool with it.
Okay.
But we sat down at this like ramen restaurant in the Upper East Side
Yeah.
in like it was like December 2017.
Yeah.
Like, you know, basically Bitcoin's
top.
at like the pico top of that cycle. And I like had been really into crypto then for like a year essentially.
Yeah.
Like basically all of 2017 was me getting into crypto. And I gave him the whole pitch and he was like, that's dope. I'm in. And he
bought
bought the top of Bitcoin
With
like
all of the church's funds.
yeah, the
Or no.
church went leverage long Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Tax write-off.
He put that all
We
of
need a
that
new
in
roof.
the BlockFi.
Yeah.
But so actually though, like pretty badass. So he like basically was like, I'm just gonna dollar cost average.
Yeah.
Like, you know, $250 per paycheck.
Yeah.
And he's done that for every paycheck.
He's a community member now. Yeah.
Since like 2017.
Good for
and so
him.
now he's up a lot.
He's
from doing
out-traded most people.
that. Yeah.
Wow, dude.
But
He's
I've
always
thought it
had
was
faith.
impressive. Oh yeah. He's a little bit of a Bitcoin maxi. He's
a plan truster.
He's a self-admitted
As
Bitcoin
I feel
maxi.
like that is it because of the other religious people, and is he on Bitcoin Twitter? Because I feel like there's a lot of overlap between like
I think he is a
fervent
little
religious.
bit like in like the Bitcoin streets. He does a lot of like Bitcoin podcast stuff.
Oh wait, he's on them.
No,
okay.
he listens to them.
Okay.
But
He's a laser eye.
So like he does. He also has Ethereum.
He loves
So
El
like
Salvador.
it took fucking forever, but I was like,
Yeah.
Dad, please just like if you're doing $250,
Yeah.
do $50 into Ethereum, like please.
Trust me.
But now my mom is doing it with Solana.
Nice.
So they're getting more and more degenerate as they go. My dad was like, I don't buy shitcoins, so I'm not going to buy Solana. But if your mom wants to,
Wow.
And then mom is out trading him, and he's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
now he's buying shitcoins.
yeah. When I saw him over Christmas, I was like, how's it feel that mom's out traded you this year so far? And he's like, it's all going to the same pot to like buy a new house, so I don't really care. But
I feel like
before we run out of time, I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
Brought up Hayden forever ago.
Yeah.
I feel like you were for a long time, not really as much anymore, like the Unisocks guy.
Yeah.
What was the origin story of Unisocks
Yeah.
and getting into that and like
Yeah.
that whole
Like
world?
So I didn't even know. It wasn't like I wasn't involved in Unisocks like in the ideation or the creation of it at all. I think that I sort of I don't know. I probably was able to like buy them or something like the day or the first couple days or something like this
Yeah.
of them launching. But in reality, that didn't really give me an edge, right? Like they basically fluctuated between whatever it was. Like I don't even remember the low point, right? But like
They were basically
$25 to $200,
Yeah.
right? For like 2 years or something. It was like an incredibly long amount of time. But to me, I always, I guess I really like weird assets, right? Like another one I sort of was really obsessed with for a long time was like wrapped crypto kitties, which sort of kind of like fractional, right? But it was like sort of fractionalized crypto kitties. So I really like exotic assets on chain, and Unisocks to me were just like so brilliant on multiple levels. Like they were, they are like merch, right?
Yeah.
I really always have liked merch a lot too. Like really good merch is like always hit a spot for me. But then also, there was a point in time, right, before the Uni token existed. And it was just really funny to me to kind of, whenever people would be like, oh, like, I wish Uniswap had a token so that I like could invest in Uniswap. And I would love just replying, being like, they actually do have an official token. It's called Unisocks, like, get it or whatever. So to me, it was just like funny. And honestly, I also like learned how to make memes, I feel like, via Unisocks. Like they were almost like like
Very
a low stakes way to like play with making memes. And then, I think that like the other thing that attracted me to them is it felt really wholesome compared to other types of tokens, right? So, how do you articulate the value of any given ERC20 token, right? Like, how do you actually explain to someone like why this thing should have value?
why is this $40,000?
Yeah, but like with Unisocks, like it actually is a clearer argument, right? Where it's like, you can draw the analogies to like expensive sneakers, right? It's like this is a rare item that sort of has historic
relevance.
It's historic relevance. It's like merch, right? It's sort of like it's the interest in this thing should be correlated to like the relevancy of the Uniswap brand, right?
And it's also like pretty mimetic too.
It's pretty mimetic. And Frank, I think the real thing that like, it sounds silly, but it's really simple, right? But we also, in building Rainbow, we needed to often almost like, if we needed to market a feature, like, oh, we just built swaps, right? In the UI shown in the like marketing, right? Like we take a screenshot or something, you often needed to have a token sort of in the UI. And we always felt weird about it being like Link or like something else that just sort of felt like we didn't want any of the company's messaging to almost seem like
choosing a side
or almost like validating something as like worthy of investment. Whereas Unisocks, it felt like really on its face, like silly and wholesome. And therefore sort of served as our example. Like whenever we needed to come up with like an example asset for something, we would use Unisocks.
Yeah.
I think that like, over time I stopped like memeing about it. Frankly, I think as well, it got to a point where I was like, oh, why am I like expending my creative energy like on this thing that doesn't benefit Rainbow? Like I should focus my sort of mimetic powers on my own shit.
Yeah.
So that's sort of like, I feel like when it, and like, I also wanted, I wanted to have my personal brand less attached to it as well. Right. Like I don't want to be known
The socks guy.
or like, I'm not offended by it at all, but it just felt like I would prefer to be
The
like
rainbow guy,
the
not the
rainbow
socks
guy.
guy.
Yeah. Like not the Unisocks guy.
Well, so then I guess like going on from there,
Yeah.
you briefly mentioned almost getting acquired.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that at all?
Well, I think that like, and it sort of doesn't, like, I think the amount that I've talked about it in the past has been like, it's all good. First of all, like it's all good. It's like a little uncouth to kind of like, stir anything up or whatever. And I think if I've publicly spoken about it, it's like, I'm not exactly sure how much I'm even technically allowed to or supposed to.
Yeah, we can definitely not talk about it. So you gotta at least ask.
I mean, we were about to get acquired back in the day, and it didn't happen.
Yeah,
and that's like, but that's all good.
And so then, lastly, on like the rainbow side, one other question that I had was like, since then, and as we've like kind of transitioned into getting into hopefully greener pastures over the next couple of years. Yeah. You guys have like rolled out like this points program and all of this stuff, and it seems like it's going really well.
It has been going really well. Dude.
What's that?
We love points.
We love some points.
Points, and then finding out I got another Optimism airdrop. Two things I love.
Yeah. How has that process been? I guess starting with like the Optimism airdrop and like starting to like, do more things with Rainbow. Like, what was kind of your thought process behind all of that?
Yeah, I mean, so, we started in the beginning by building this mobile app. And quickly, though, we learned that, MetaMask is still the default wallet, right? And when analyzing why that is, we quickly realized that, it's impossible to compete with MetaMask while only having kind of a subset of their platform coverage. So it became really important in our minds to have platform parity with MetaMask. And that's what really prioritized the Rainbow extension product, right? So we launched that in September of this year. It brings Rainbow to desktop. And we've been adding lots of more features to it. And I think at this point, it's now at feature parity or better than MetaMask.
It's better.
Yeah, like there were a couple of missing
things.
It's better. There are a couple of things missing, right? Like up until recently, like we sort of only within the last like 2 weeks did we ship support for custom networks, right? And that was a big thing many people were holding out for. Yeah. As well as like we just shipped our NFT tab, right? So it's like now Rainbow, the Rainbow extension has like, sort of feature parity with the mobile app as far as NFTs go. But really, right? Like I think that lately we're really trying to become the new default, right? And doing whatever it takes to get there. I think as well that with MetaMask in particular, I think there's very few people out there, if any at all, that would actually identify themselves as like MetaMask evangelists.
Or like a fan.
Yeah, there's very few people who are like genuine lovers of MetaMask. And the majority of the user base, in my mind and in my opinion, are people who essentially are like waiting for a reason to bail and sort of, it's always worked for them, right? Like it goes without saying, MetaMask has like a pristine security track record, and they have the first mover advantage, and I think people trust them in that way. But you know, people are like sort of like waiting for a good enough reason to try another product. And that was a big part of what that was a factor in this whole Rainbow Points thing, right? We think, so with Rainbow Points, we, if you import a MetaMask wallet into Rainbow, we give you bonus points. And we think that that can be a big reason why people make the change, frankly. So yeah, I mean, what we're looking to do here with points is one is to incentivize users to take on-chain actions from within Rainbow, but also to build up this muscle memory for reaching for Rainbow for things. But also as well, historically Rainbow's growth has almost always been driven by user evangelism and word of mouth. And up until the launch of Rainbow Points, we haven't really had a way to actually reward people for that evangelism. But now we have this referral program as part of Points that can be. What's up?
I guess I gotta get a tweet out with my referral code.
Yeah, go for it, man. I mean, it's the best way to earn points, right?
Yeah.
Actually. And yeah, I mean, I think that points are sort of a meme right now to a degree. Not Rainbow, but just across the industry, there's sort of this meta around points and what are they, et cetera. But I think that what we're going to be doing here with Rainbow Points is going to be quite exciting. I think people will be really excited with it. The outcomes. Yeah.
Nice.
You're not just going to be season 2 down the road.
No.
TBA.
I think people are, I mean, yeah, we're working really hard on sort of on the next evolution of it. It's it's working with lawyers and really trying to figure out, So I think we'll have clarity here soon about sort of what public facing clarity about what points are going to come in the near term. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest thing about some of the points programs. It's this thing lasted 6 months, 9 months, and it's Friendtech's a good example. We had a lot of excitement in August, and then September it topped. But I'm still getting points. But are they worth anything? Is it just all for nothing? It's I don't even know when it. I guess they did tell us, doesn't it end in 38 weeks from when it launched? But anyway, points. Man.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. I think that there is actually a lot of interesting points. There's a degree to which I feel the popularity of them is almost opportunistic to a degree.
Yeah.
But I also think that it does fundamentally create a it can be a really useful tool for projects to reward their user base. It gives them the flexibility to change the rules based on abuse, right? And I think that in hindsight, right, if you look at sort of other ways of involving the community or sort of sort of projects that have done airdrops and stuff before, they often don't have that ability to reduce or
cut out
mitigate
bad
against
actors
abuse, until it's too late.
Yeah, well, you think about it, and points are not a new crypto thing.
Right.
I fucking love getting my status at the hotels that I like.
They sort of seemingly mean something a little bit different in crypto. Yeah.
Yeah. But the core idea of giving people who are your users some tiered incentivization system to say you're doing the things that we like, good job, keep doing it. We will give you rewards for this is a tale as old as time.
Yeah, I'm getting McDonald's points. I'm getting Chick-fil-A points. I'm getting fucking American Express points. We're getting flight miles. Points.
Yeah.
But like you said, it is different. In a traditional sense, you're thinking, I'm going to spend the point to receive a benefit.
Yeah.
And in this sense, it's I'm going to accumulate as many as I can get possible without spending them in any way.
Yeah.
For hoping for some future payout or something.
Now, I have seen, so I've been quite impressed with what Warpcast has been doing.
Yeah.
They sort of actually have
the warps.
Yeah, spendable points. And I find it to be actually really interesting and compelling. I feel they've executed on that in a way that's really cool, actually.
Yeah, that's actually something that I've been thinking about a lot with IKB, the DFS stuff that we're working on, where a lot of these apps, the pre-existing ones they don't call it points, but DraftKings has crowns that you can earn. And I have earned enough DraftKings crowns that I got to enter some contests for free.
Yeah.
And so I earned points, and then I spent those points to enter a
I see.
DraftKings
And
contest.
you had to spend them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like I do think that I'm a little bit surprised that we haven't seen more kind of things along those lines in the crypto space, where like Friendtech could have totally done some super basic like points spending thing to earn NFTs, or enter a raffle to win some ETH or something. Like there's tons of little things. Not that they have to, or that
My
it would have
guess
been the
is
right
that
thing to
a
do.
lot of those things like I guess I don't know. Like as a user of a lot of these things, I don't want like if someone's like you can get a random NFT for your points.
Yeah.
Like my default reaction to that is like
I'm gonna keep them.
that is such a like I don't want your NFT. Like the types of things that people make to give away in those contexts tend to be like not
Garbage.
interesting. Yeah, they're like sort of like
Yeah, you kind of have to have something of actual tangible value to give people.
Correct. Yeah.
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 But yeah, that's where like I've thought about it in like from the perspective of our thing, where like we could just be like, hey, we will pay for your entry in a contest or something.
Yeah.
If you burn 1,000 points or whatever, in like kind of do almost more like a airline miles and points kind of
Yeah,
thing.
it's more like rake back on underdog or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Like the whatever tier you're in, you get a certain amount back.
Yeah.
But it's kind of baked into your cost because okay, I'm gonna get whatever percent of the 10% rake back.
Yeah, like that's actually a really good example. Like imagine if Friendtech kind of just deal like directly from
Like-
in daily fantasy sports.
Like if you have 150 keys,
Yeah, in daily fantasy sports, like the way that they're like the way they make money is typically by taking a percentage of the entry fees of contests. And
Sorry, is it they call everything a contest?
yeah,
yeah,
Okay.
game of skill.
Okay.
yeah, and so what they do to encourage really high volume players to play in high volume is they say, hey, when you meet these certain volume thresholds, we will, after the fact, give you back a percentage of your entry fees.
Yeah.
Like what
Rebates,
the rate.
yeah.
Yeah, basically
yeah.
the rebates. And so like, for example, when Friendtech people are critical of
Yeah.
like their percentage
Fees are crazy on.
they could have said like, if you own this many keys and you like based on your point tiers, like you get a points based rebate for 5% of your fees. Maybe they just like didn't have to.
They didn't
But, like,
well, dude, I mean, between Friendtech and between the Fion transfer tokens that were popping off a few months ago, like I think that those really demonstrated how the fee sensitivity that people sort of like the whole concept of like revealed preference versus stated preference. People might state that their preference is like fuck fees. Like I hate fees. Like I'm going to choose a product with the least amount of fees. But like the revealed preference is that they will spend an insane amount of money on Friendtech. They'll spend an insane amount of money on these Fion transfer tokens that have the
perfect example.
if they think they can make more money on it
correct.
long term,
yeah.
I mean, it's the same. It's very similar with gas fees on ETH.
Yeah.
Like, if I was spending $300 to do a swap, it was because I thought I was gonna make more.
Yeah.
It's like part of playing the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, at Rainbow, like, so we're looking to use points to like accelerate our growth and sort of build user muscle memory into reaching for Rainbow to perform certain actions. But yeah, I mean, like in the mobile app, for example, we're going to be adding like a DApp browser, which has been something that we historically like
That's nice.
had said we were never going to do, but we are. Really, just because we're trying to meet users with we're trying to meet users where they are at, right?
Yeah.
If they all want something and like that's the thing that would make Rainbow their daily driver, like we shouldn't.
Who are you to tell
fight
them they're wrong?
Yeah, and I think that over time as well, like Wallet Connect and sort of, I think earlier on, like we had much higher aspirations for kind of how seamless the user experience could be.
I
And
hate using Wallet Connect.
yeah, it's sort of like part of it is not their fault. Part of it's on sort of the operating systems themselves. But then, yeah, at the end of the day, it's like it can often be just that much better to not use Wallet Connect, right? So we're going to be building that into the product.
That's exciting.
Nice. That's like, I mean, I basically do not interact with crypto on my phone other
Yeah.
than Telegram shitcoin trading bots.
Yeah.
But that's like a big one for me.
What do you like about the Telegram bots?
It's just so easy.
It's
So,
instant.
and when you say easy, it's about what? It's about sort of the fact that you are already using Telegram. Is it sort of the number of interactions it takes for you to sort of complete an action? Is
Probably
it,
a bit of both.
okay.
Like I think it's like instantaneous.
Yeah.
Like there's no even thinking of like slippage or fees or anything. All you're saying is buy me $100 worth of this shitcoin as fast as possible.
And are you leveraging the other
possible.
features as well? Things like limit orders, things like...
Personally, I do not.
Yeah,
no.
it's interesting because most people don't.
Yeah. No, it's just like, I guess for me, I just am not a phone... I'm not a phone power user. I only use Twitter as social media. Yeah. I basically use my phone to message people and to post tweets and to like maybe see like the scores of sporting events.
Yeah.
And so... like, I have no desire to ever interact with like OpenSea on my phone and buy and sell NFTs.
I've definitely used my phone more than you then, because I'm much more like the casual phone user. Like, oh, I see an edition that's like $40 on base. Like, I'm gonna buy that on my phone most of the time because I normally see it from Twitter.
Yeah,
and I normally use Twitter from my phone. So it's like, oh, there's a link to Mint. Click Rainbow Wallet Connect. Click Face ID. It's done. But the Telegram bot is literally like paste the contract address. It just bought it.
Wait, so I have to go, but soon.
Yeah,
we're curious. It's about time that we.
Can I ask? I wanted to ask one, or there was one thing I wanted to ask you guys about. I guess are you guys tied on? Do we have a couple minutes?
Yeah. No, I have no. I told you.
Well, so I'm quite curious. So you guys, I feel like, are on the frontiers of exploring different, NFT communities on different blockchains, right? You guys are out here buying and selling like Bitcoin NFTs, Solana NFTs. Like, I feel like one of you, was it you? You were like, you need a wallet to support Cosmos for you to care about it or something like that. I forget what it was, like a hardware wallet or something.
Oh yeah, hardware wallet.
But I'm just curious how you guys think about this, like, and particularly, I'm curious what your guys' takes are on, the viability of Ethereum L2s as becoming like a major sort of platform for NFTs. And historically they haven't been. And I'm just kind of curious, I guess, what y'all's almost predictions for how the space develops. And I guess, like what you would do if you were in the shoes of like a layer two looking to sort of, I don't know. Maybe that's not the right version of the question, but just curious your take on like NFTs on L2s.
Yeah,
like,
I guess I think of it from the approach of like, well, why aren't NFTs on L2s right now?
Yeah.
Or like, why aren't they popping off?
Yeah.
And I think a fundamental thing that has happened on both Bitcoin and Solana is that people have made a lot of money off the native currency. And like the L2 currencies, like Arb, Optimism, Matic, they haven't. And Matic had a good run last time, but there hasn't been like a lot of wealth creation from people who hold a bunch of those tokens. And I feel like once you're,
it's interesting that you put Bitcoin in that category too, because I would agree it's gone, but it's not even, you know what I mean? It's like not at all-time highs yet, but you're absolutely right that it has.
Because there's people who've held it from.
They've never had anything to spend it on other than drugs. And now they can finally
this
buy
is like
something.
the first thing that they can spend it on. So I go back to that unit bias of like, okay, well, what if they bought their Bitcoin under $2,500 and like 0.1 to them is only $250 in their head and like the unit bias. But I think other than that, there's something about like the UX of L2s that confuses and intimidates people. I think it's easier to process. Like Solana's its own ecosystem, Bitcoin's its own ecosystem. When people are in MetaMask and then they're like, wait, am I on Base? Wait, no, I'm on the Zora chain. Wait, no, I'm on Arbitrum. And then they're like, oh shit, I need to go to Stargate and like fucking change my Base ETH to Arbitrum ETH. Like it feels almost cleaner to just segregate it to a new wallet and be like, I'm in Solana. So I think right now, and then there hasn't been a big project that has had a lot of draw. Like we saw the D-Gods do Utes on Polygon, but that was ultimately bridged to ETH because like no one wants to fucking use Polygon.
The Rainbow Worlds thing that we did with AdWorlds, I feel like that was one of the most sort of successful L2 NFTs that I've seen. Like I don't know if there's any organic like. Yeah, like I feel like, well, I guess you could say the treasure people on Arbitrum.
Yeah. On Arbitrum,
that seems like organic. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, honestly, I think the biggest thing is like if you have projects that are very serious and very legitimate, people will go there just because if it's worth their time and energy, they'll figure it out. But I think like up until now, if you are an EVM native project, like it makes no sense to not do it on mainnet.
Yeah,
I would agree. It's like it's kind of a very hard like, okay, do I want to take the risk and try to be the biggest NFT project on Arbitrum where like maybe just no one will give a fuck?
Right. And like the tooling is only half there, right? Like only like, you know, it's like Blur still doesn't support. Do they even support anything besides ETH mainnet? Do they support Polygon?
Because every time you're on it, it says you need to switch your network.
So it's like, that's always, I feel like, been a hindrance as well. I feel like OpenSea supports all of them now.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, because the one thing I like about OpenSea is we've sold some NFTs on Base for the podcast for $5.
Yeah.
And then we have free mints on Base, but it all shows in OpenSea.
Yep.
And then it all shows in like a gallery too. So if you want to build it.
Yep.
But I think in general, there's not like high value things on the L2s because it makes too much sense to be on the L1s.
Yeah.
And then the other people who might look at the L2s then end up going to probably Solana because they're like, there's more upside in this community. And
how much does it matter? Like, I guess, does the fact that like, so say something popped off, say something like dropped on one of these ETH L2s, like, does the fact that like there's not many other projects on that ETH L2, does that influence your interest? Or are you just like, this is cool, so I'll buy it? Like, who cares about sort of like
so
the rest of the ecosystem?
easy and minimal for me to bridge and buy something. It would much more be like, oh, this is cool. Like for me, it would almost be like a higher signal of like, oh, this is the first thing. Like when I think of Polygon NFTs, I think of Trump trading cards. Like that's like the number one NFT in my head on Polygon. When I think of Arbitrum, I think of the smalls. When I think of Base, I don't know what I think of, but I have a bunch of parallel cards. I like have been
probably
using,
that in the Rainbow Ad World.
Yeah, like it's those two. When I think,
do you guys have NFTs on like Solana that are sort of even, or sort of like, do the dollar values of the high end ones sort of come close to the
so
dollar
our high
value?
end, the Tensorians are like 10K.
Yeah,
right now?
they're I have no. I just don't even know. I just have them all staked. But what are they? 100 ETH or 100 Sol?
100 Sol.
100 ETH,
So they're
imagine.
about 10K.
Okay.
There's Mad Lads, which are like 180 Sol. So those are closer to 20K.
Because something I've also wondered about too, right, has always been like whether there'll be any sort of L1 to L2 migration, because there are interesting things that you could do with NFTs, sort of like whether it comes like, you know, whether it comes to things like, you know, like mechanisms like staking or sort of using them in some sort of system that like the gas cost of L1 is an encumbrance.
That's definitely been a problem for a few of the projects. Like I did a collab with the Goons and we did some toys, but the toys, there are other stuff they've done.
Do I need to do anything with those, by the way? Do I have to like
No,
redeem them or
you'll know in probably like 6-ish weeks.
All right, when I have to, can you just remind me?
Yes. I'm going to be very loud about it, and it's going to be a wide window. It's not like a 24-hour thing. But anyway, they've had issues with staking because you have to stake their thing on L1. Some of their people, like, they buy it for 0.1 ETH, but then it's $40 to stake it or unstake it and move it. And that is prohibitive to them because they're trying to go at an audience that, like, is going to buy something for $100 or $200. And then that $30 is, like, an extra
addition.
30 to 15.
So if something came along and was like, yo, there's this really cool thing happening on L2. There's like an app, like blah, blah, blah. Like, but, you know, like, would you bridge high end? Like, would you bridge a CryptoPunk to an L2 if there was like, what would it take for you to bridge it?
No, probably
not
not.
the punk.
No. Yeah.
I think that what we'll end up seeing is like, I kind of do pretty strongly believe that it will at some point become totally gas prohibitive. To like trade most NFT collections on mainnet ETH. Like when we see a real bull market. With like on-chain activity and stuff. But like I think the really high-end art stuff, like punks, will stay on the L1s just because like just kind of how the nature of those collections. But I think that in like, you know, in like 2 years we will see big PFP collections on like Arbitrum and Optimism and stuff. I think it's just like it's a significantly riskier bet right now.
It is.
And like you were saying, those chains just don't like Arbitrum has a lot of DeFi activity. Optimism, I don't know if I know many people who like genuinely transact on Optimism regularly. Other than like trying to get RPGF. Yeah. But like, is there that much to do there other than trade coins? Or they have like perps. They have like really good like perps exchanges.
Okay, wait, I had it. L2. Sorry. Oh yeah. So what other infrastructure do you guys view as necessary to exist for like an NFT ecosystem to blossom? Like, it seems like all you need is an order book market. Like, is, you know, for that to be sort of like that was necessary for Bitcoin ordinals to sort of happen. Like, you know, is it that simple, or do you guys need things like, you know, for example, I always have recommended to the L2 projects when I speak to their partnership teams or whatever to like prioritize things like getting pseudo swap deployed, because like, hey, right now you have zero liquidity for these NFTs. Like, you know, if people like can like lock ups, or like if there's sort of easier ways to like build like even passive liquidity, it's sort of like, it's this cold start problem over there where there's like sort of no resting like bids or offers on your NFTs. Like maybe an AMM model would sort of bootstrap it. I'm just curious, like, are there, and you know, is it just as simple as like, you know,
If
an order book needs to support your thing, or is there other infrastructure?
I feel like pseudo swap is so, it's like the 1% of people in
For
the
sure.
NFT space probably get it.
For sure.
And then there needs to be like how, I kind of think like OpenSea Pro does it well, how
Yeah.
they aggregate like
Yeah,
NFTX
yeah.
and stuff. Like there
Yeah.
needs to be like that type of front end
Yeah.
that then allows like, you know, little Jimmy to just go in and be like, I want that one and I can buy it. Even if it does use that backbone. Like I'm even intimidated by
Yeah.
using pseudo swap
fair
flooring
enough.
protocol.
Yeah.
Like I don't trade any NFT perps or anything.
You just said little Jimmy. I'm curious. Do you guys have demographic insights into the viewers of your podcast?
We have like countries and stuff.
Okay.
It's mostly US and European.
Interesting. I'd be curious
Little
to know the
Jimmy is
age
just like
breakdown.
I need to make
That's
up
your
a
idea.
name of
Yeah,
like
no, I got you.
Tommy.
I just wanted to
John,
know.
Like I don't know.
Yeah. Very cool.
We have a question we ask everybody.
Yeah.
If you were to write an autobiography,
Yeah.
what would the title of it be?
Autobiography. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Like, I feel like
That
my
takes some
high
time.
school yearbook like tagline was something goofy, like it was something like the College of Life or something like that. You know, because I was like, everyone knew I didn't apply to colleges or something like this. Yeah, I don't
Let's
know.
lean into it.
Yeah, I think like, you know, yeah, I don't know, something like that. I would say like, you know,
The College of Life.
College of Life. Yeah,
I like that.
yeah,
Well, this has been a great conversation. I know you.
yeah.
need
Thanks for
to-
having me, guys.
I know you
Yeah.
need to.
This was fun.
Yeah, this was cool. I'm hyped to have met you, D's, for the first time. And yeah, this was cool, guys. I would love to chat again sometime.